welcome back to the Metropole Grid. Thanks for joining me on this auspicious evening. I thought it'd be really nice to come in on that sort of serene energy. Normally we wait for the music to drop, but I was enjoying that one a bit too much. Hopefully you're doing well. How's it going? It's the 23rd of February, 2023. 230223. What does it mean? There was some common intro music, Thanos. How's it going? Yeah, it is. I actually like the track a lot. I think the actual non-instrumental version has someone singing over it, and it's really wild how that song goes from like, I don't like the singing. Extern, how's it going? Sophie, how you doing? Izzy, how you doing as well? Amelius, yo, welcome to the stream. Andre ASMR. I think we did once like a full ASMR stream when my voice wasn't very good. I don't honestly know how it sounds when I talk quietly. I'm normally pretty loud. I think the last couple streams I've been a bit too loud even because I generally wear headphones that are noise canceling and I don't realize how loud I am. So we're going to do better today. John Thomas, how's it going? Afternoon to you, or good evening. I reckon you're on the other side of the world. Zaddy go, yo, hey, welcome to the stream. There's a lot of names for people I don't recognize. Firstly, welcome to the stream. I don't do a good enough job promoting this channel in terms of like hit that follow button, subscribe on YouTube, follow on Twitch, hit the notification stuff. I should say it more. It's like something I've been only saying rarely when I make video content. Mind you, we put out a video earlier this week. I liked it. It turned out well. I enjoyed the video. 2 questions. Firstly, do you find yourself more often hitting the like button and leaving a comment if someone directly asks you to? I feel like you do. I feel like one does. I'm also watch YouTube videos, so it kind of reminds you to do it as much as someone who makes content. I think you worry about that more. But the other question is, are the videos too long? Like, what happened? We just kind of power crept up here in length, right? Like, you go to the Metropole Grid. We put out a deck dive video. You see a significant difference in my videos, Jeff. Yeah, I do too. I really do too, which is so wild because then I don't make I don't make an effort to say it all the time. By the way, it was Jeff's birthday just yesterday, so wish Yusengrin happy birthday if you can. Nothing makes you feel old like setting up a bunch of modern programming tools, though. Good. Been a good week, done a good amount of drafting, and got a lot of good feedback. Oh, are you doing tools for the drafting or just in general? Seabass, how's it going? Is Snare on the menu? Yes, Snare is definitely on the menu. We're going to revisit the deck list of the week as of last week because we did some drafting last week, and I'm actually really excited to play it because it has some cool tech damage. It's also that sort of like acid damage deck that I think I've seen in startup more than I've seen in standard, which is cool. I honestly don't think I've ever liked a YouTube video. Maybe I'm a baddie. Tim Burton, that is not a charitable place to be in. And now we have become enemies. I directly asked you to, and then you were like, nah, I know better. I kid. So I want to know, I need to look at the retention numbers. I like the long videos. Sophie, thank you. This feedback is actually super, super useful for me because like some of the deck dives, the first deck dives we put out were like 45 minutes. And then like we've just constantly crept up in time, right? Like, so the last one we put out was surprisingly like 2 hours and 40 minutes. It's like The Godfather. And I just record games and maybe it's on me. Maybe I should just call the games that aren't the best 3 games. I don't know honestly what it is. The viewership still seems pretty steady. I need to see if the retention graph like really messes up or not. The intros are also getting longer. Like the whole thing is inflating, and that's not so much an issue as much as if people don't care for it to be that long, or they're like 2 hours. Well, I'm not watching this. Then obviously that's a problem. So I need to look at that. I'm also wondering if releasing like more videos instead of 1 video a week to be like, here's 5 videos and they're just separate gameplay uploads. But I feel like that's actually way more work. So I'm gonna try and avoid that, I reckon, unless you want to do it. Hold on, you're playing Prison? John, I wouldn't say it's Prison. It's like PE Assets, which actually, there's a really loud truck outside, is not Prison as much as it is like a burst combo kill deck. So it's not really trying to grind out a late game. It's trying to set up a board state that kills you. But yeah, it's not about scoring agendas, if that's what you're asking, yeah. Trying to get you Sungren's Python environment set up. Oh, super cool. I can do some research. I know very little about GitHub, and I know I need to download a GitHub and like recreate it, and I'm intimidated. Your video this week was good, long, but all the games were really entertaining. I just went and smashed that like button because I felt bad. Thank you, Bird. I should say I'm not a normal person who consumes content in a normal way. But Sophie, I reckon like we're relatively similar. Like I don't know how people consume this content. Any feedback would be good. Is this the sort of thing like I'm going to put this on and go to bed? Or like I'm going to put this on another screen while I'm doing something that takes more of my focus? Or I'm going to sit bad and like just watch, I'm going to sit down and just like watch 2 hours and 40 minutes. Mind you, I watch myself at 2x speed, so it's not even that long. I can somehow understand myself. But I don't know how people like consume this content. Maybe it's just a good podcast. I honestly don't know. So I don't know what like is a good length. But again, I'm the sort of person where like H Bomber guy will upload like a 2.5 hour video and I'll just be like, oh, I guess I'm watching this now, even though I probably don't have the time to do it. I like longer videos. I also find it interesting when you include games you lose and explain why. Yo, so that was called out in a comment on this video being like, hey, it's really nice that you uploaded a game where you lose. And I'm going to address that comment. I usually do that after the stream. I respond to comments. But I am very interested in including games where we lose. You don't actually see a lot of them. It wasn't the first time we've lost in a deck dive video. I think there's been one or two other losses on the game. And sometimes it is just so we don't lose. Secondly, I did go undefeated with Nuclear Submarine, by the way. But the issue is I need to find a game that we lose, but we lose in a way that's not uninteresting, where like we just don't make a terrible blunder. And then the whole time I'm sitting there be like, oh God, if we didn't do that, we could have won the game. But I also want games where we lose in an interesting way. I think a fair bit of my matches that we lose in just a terrible way where the deck just like doesn't function. It's like not even close. And so those games do not get the editing. They don't even hit the editing table. They just go straight to the trash can. So I'm very interested in getting games where I lose on the channel. It's just, they're harder to find, games where you lose and games where you lose in an interesting way, unfortunately. And again, it's not because we win all our games, but it's more so that there are games we lose, but a lot of times if we lose, we can sometimes get blown out. And like, that's not really, you don't learn much from it, unfortunately. So I usually watch it in chunks. Interesting. Yeah, these have timestamps. That's actually good for that. Quiet background stuff for when I'm working. Hey, Alstar. Okay, great. Okay, cool. I watched this week's video while peeling the back of my fancy new Team Covenant Netrunner tokens. Oh yeah, they put those out again. That's really cool. Hey, enjoy those. Trace 4? Lucas, what do you mean? For a long time, I usually watch like the intro in one game in one sitting and then have a game or two in a sitting when I have some time. You see, Izzy, that makes me think that it might be better for me to upload them as like 3 separate videos. So like they're in watchable sections as opposed to having to go back and like scrub to the section. I don't know if the YouTube app remembers where you are. It doesn't when I use YouTube on my phone. So I don't know. That's interesting. But that's the sort of like feedback I definitely want. IDEs and programming tools have just come such a long way and gotten super complex / awesome. It's weird to mostly know what I'm doing, but still not getting it done. The cool thing is like you always have notepad.txt. And let me tell you, in terms of coding environments, you can do worse. I work night shifts, so those videos pass a bit of time, keep them coming. Hey, just space. I'm glad I can help make those night shifts a bit easier. I saw it win 2.5 hours, and then I watched it in 2 1-hour spurts. But yeah, that makes sense about losing games. Yeah, okay, cool. Lucas, did you ask the question? I feel like you asked it. Who asked the question? I think it was Lucas. Oh, you got to watch ads for bad mobile games on my videos now. Sorry about that. Yeah, it was you. Hell yeah, I knew that. Okay, cool. Cards are way too small in JNet to watch on my phone. I keep a tab open on my laptop. Oh, that's actually a really good point. Yeah. YouTube remembers where I am at least. I like them as one video rather than having to go through multiple intros. Yeah, I think it was me. Okay, cool. You don't always have Notepad.txt Python environments have to be basically set up to get anything done. Oh, I'm just joking. I don't use Notepad, please. You could. Notepad++ though. All right, let's jump into some games today. If there's anywhere you're looking to cut for time, I think your intros, while very interesting, are a bit long and often repeat stuff that's in the game themselves. Yeah, there's this issue, and specifically in the first game, is where I like do an intro, and so like I record the gameplay before I record the intro. That might be obvious. But then like my first game, I usually spend the first couple minutes kind of going over what I probably should have expected that I was going to say in the intro itself. So I do think that gets a bit redundant. I feel like watching this one, there were actually just parts of the game I could have edited out where I was just reiterating things like 2 or 3 times because I got lost in the thinking. And I feel like the editing here could have been a bit cleaner. That being said, we do edit out a fair bit of time where I'm humming and hawing and like, you know, your opponent takes your turn and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know. I need to see the intention on the intros. I like the intros where like, this intro also got cut out too because I suggested a lot of things like you could do this instead, and I felt like the intro was getting too long, so I cut that out. But that's good to know. Hey, Solomir, things are well. How are you? It was really cold today. It's Nanako's birthday on Sunday. Isn't that nice? She's 6 years old. We're gonna celebrate that. We got her a new bow tie. She's gonna look dapper. Let's start here. This is Silly Modernism, 6-0 Swiss National Championship. This is from QVM, and I think QVM hasn't played Netrunner in a while. QVM, mind you, is somebody who played Netrunner for a while. It's a name I recognize. So they've been playing classically Netrunner, so they know what this is. And it's called Silly Modernism, which is like a modern take on the Supermodernism. You might be familiar with the history of this if you watched the Startup Modernism deck list we published, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, maybe. And it's really cool. The idea of these sort of decks is they have multiple win conditions. You can score out agendas and go fast, which is nice. You have the modicum of fast events. So if you get to 5 points, you can just kind of steal the game away. And then, of course, if they ever step out of line, you have hard-hitting news. Now, because this is a standard deck and not a startup deck, program destruction is not worth pursuing. So all we have is hard-hitting news into Singleton Boom, which that's okay, and a Singleton end of the line. I'm never too sure which version of this we should be playing, how many booms, how many end of lines. A single end of the line works okay. We have snares, which is like the classic start of modernism, or sorry, super modernism include, which is such a fun card that people are definitely not gonna be respecting in the outfit, and you can just win games out of nowhere. That is 100% for sure. And it's also worth noting, we have the new regulatory capture, which is 6-2, not that we're playing super deep borehole. Eventually will be a 4-2 or ideally a 3-2, maybe even a 2-2 when we take enough bad publicity along the way, just by doing the thing we want to do anyways. We have really good ice, 3 trebuchet. This is a very rough face check, even on turn 1 after you install a resource. Like, there's not a lot of cards that trash any installed runner card. This can sink a boat, one of the few cards in the format. And then 3 bulwark, which nobody's prepared to deal with. It has 3 subroutines, and they're all relatively reasonable, so it's really good into endurance. And you res this for only 7 credits, sometimes 5 credits if they have an AI. So that's pretty good. And we have Too Big to Fail. So the idea is we can go fast, we can go rush. I'm very excited to see these sort of like outfit-esque decks, or sorry, Argus-esque decks. Argus was in the last, what's it called, Order and Chaos. It was the Wayland identity that was used for a lot of time. I think the outfit and Argus were kind of interchangeable for a while going forward. This is cool. I disagree about the intros. I enjoy the summary. It lets me know what to look for and gives me something succinct to look at if I'm playing the deck. That's cool to hear. I'm really hoping the intros land well, especially for people who might be newer to the game, because I don't think, like, deck write-ups are so important. And I've been highlighting a lot of folks who've done really good deck write-ups, but I think it's such a nice way, hopefully, to understand what your deck is going to do, as opposed to like just picking it up and playing it, like the deck list of the week, like I'm going to do right now. Not that there isn't a write-up. I haven't read it. I consume it differently. Okay. Did quite well the last GNK last weekend. Pretty happy with my performance there. What did you play? And yeah, it's pretty cold here on the West Coast too right now. What did you end up bringing? I like 1 boom, 1 end the line if the goal is to keep the runner honest rather than straight kill. Yeah, I'm wondering how often we're going to kill versus how often we're going to do something else. And that's actually one of the big things about these sort of decks. Is like, there's a lot of ways that the runner could deal with this card in theory, right? Like, we're not seeing that much Shaper just because people don't like playing World Tree Woo on casual lobby of JNet. I hope not anymore. So you're not seeing a lot of misdirection. So people can respect to keep the 8 credits they need in hand. And we do have economic warfare. So sometimes we can make that a bit more insidious. But the idea is if they're clearing the tags, that's fine because we can recover all our economy in 1 click while still pushing in their mode server. Like, our turn can be, you know, too big to fail to go up to like 15 credits, 20 credits, install an agenda, hard-hitting news. And it's not so much that we can convert the kill right then and there, but it's more so that we're forking the runner. And that's the sort of idea here is each of our win conditions on their own could work, but the fact that the runner has to juggle, you know, 2 or 3 plates without dropping them is where we have some teeth. And we have to make sure we're playing fast because we actually have a okay medium game considering our ice is pretty taxing, but I'm actually really excited to play this. 6-0, undefeated. Thule and Freedom, pretty standard runner list, but pretty crowd of the Corp. Deck write-ups are hard. Are you writing it up? Was it also startup or was it standard? People like Thule way more than I do, and I've seen, it's very rare to see Thule lists that I like, but I do think they're out there. I've seen some that were shared to me. I'm like, actually, that's kind of cool. But I'm not a Thule believer, so someone's gonna have to convert me. It'll happen. Thought a bit more about Sell Me on 6, and maybe I'm just bad at pitching or don't care to, but it's a long list of little things and not one big thing, but the actual list is for another time. Yeah, Ixaran, like, I don't want to say that to be like 6 is wrong, whatever, but like the conversation of why people play to 6 unlimited versus 7 is actually very interesting. I know when I was watching Jeff's draft VOD videos, he talked about like, I like 7 a bit more, and I classically like 7 a bit more because the way I see it, it allows you to take more freedoms, you don't get blown out as early, it's just like, you have a bit of a longer life, right? To the game, regardless what side you're on. Oh, we already have the deck imported. Sick. So yeah, I'm somewhere in the middle. That being said, faster games is really cool. It makes the 3-pointers a bit interesting, and I guess you're forced 3-pointers in some limited format. So I don't know what that does, but it's a conversation to be had that I think there's actually a lot of points on each side of it. Let's go. No offense here. Okay, good. Yo, Macaroni, how's it going? How's Friday? The Objection. I don't recognize this name. Let's do it. I saw someone talking about Hangeki Thule in GLC. I like barely remember what Hangeki does. It's the one that forces you to access something, or you get -1 agenda points, right? We're playing against Isla. I'm not a big Isla believer. Diogene waiting in the wings for us to lose to Isla, but we'll see what this means. So basically at the beginning of the game, you can pull 6 cards aside, and then you can use those cards. You can spend a click to draw them. And it's a really interesting ability. Thanks, you two. Now in standard format, out of Shaper, you have the most tools to find the cards when and if you need it. But the idea here is they could keep a misdirection or some sort of cool tech card for this matchup that they're expecting. This is not the right deck. This is a startup deck. What deck is this? What deck did we load? I think we're playing a startup deck in standard. What happened here? Did I pick the wrong ID? No, we're 44. Uh-oh. Okay, we're going to play whatever this deck this is. I think this is just startup modernism. Okay, that's not good. It's just like a smaller decks and smaller card pools are really appealing from a design standpoint, and it's cool to change the value of agendas. I still think you can play a smaller deck and go to 7 though, right? We kept this hand. I'm not sure exactly what to expect. It might just be like World Tree kind of shenanigans. Getting Hostile out early is a bit of a liability against Shaper that can really easily use bad publicity with things like self-modifying code or any way to pull something out during a run, let alone like World Tree. But they clot this out. This hand's like not amazing. Watslav's Thule is really good. Actually has credits. Actually has credits is like the biggest hill to crest. Oh, this is a startup deck. This is not a good spot. We don't want to be here. I definitely should have been suspicious. I just picked up the wrong deck. I picked up Startup Modernism instead of Silly Modernism. There's the issue with the naming convention. Not restart. I feel rude to our opponent to be like, it looks like we just got a bad mulligan or we just left. We're going to play it out really fast. We're just going to play fast and loose and not like, you know, kind of, I don't know what 3 sheets to the wind means, but I think that's what this is. Oh, it's also a 50 card Isla? Get out. Yeah, I think you're right. It's a 50 card Isla. So they just click to draw a card. So the idea is like, what card are they drawing here that's actually worth drawing? Drawing through your deck is actually kind of interesting, right? Because you end up getting to the things that you need. Obviously, that's really important. But drawing like economy cards off Isla means it's like 2 clicks for a sure gamble or something like that. So ideally, it's something better than just an economy card. It's really kind of convoluted to some extent. Like I think drawing through your stack is generally a good thing to do because it gets you to all your other cards in your deck that you need to draw through. But drawing cards here doesn't actually progress through your deck, which is actually a very important thing you have to do. Here we don't really have an aggressive rush. I think we can draw once more and discard some of these cards. Yeah, this is a startup deck. I'm just gonna ice up. I think we're just gonna put like a little ice on R&D because obviously all the agendas are in there. We'll get rid of a Hordem. We'll get rid of we want to have like 1 of each type of ice on the remote server. We have 2 really nice ice. I think the regolith is going to be a bit too slow. 3 sheets of the wind equals drunk. Okay, something like that, right? You really can't play to 7 off 14 points. IMO makes the game into toxic spaces. Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, that's very true. That you have to steal half the agendas in the deck if they're playing 30. Yeah, that is totally true. This is bad publicity. I think we'd rather them spend a credit here, let alone they now made a successful run. So if we top decked hard-hitting news, oops, wait. So that's actually a really rough play, potentially into hard-hitting news. That being said, they're going to have a lot of credits next turn. Let's see if they can do a single piece of ice. I don't think we need to do that. I think we can build a better remote server. So we might see a boat. I don't want to push this into the remote server just yet. And I think here we'd rather have a ice wall because I think boat's going to come down sooner than a breaker. And I don't think we're going to put that in the remote server. I'm going to play this and keep a 1 and 3 on HQ, which is like very dodgy, but they haven't been running HQ at all. Sheets like the 3 sails on 3 masts of a ship. Do you not have a subscribe option on Twitch? Hey, Svelte Desert, how's it going? I wanted to throw my Prime sub your way. Been watching a few vids. Firstly, thank you. I really appreciate it. Unfortunately, we don't have a subscribe button on Twitch because to be a Twitch affiliate, which is something we have the capability of doing, one of the rules is that you can't co-stream. So you can't stream to both Twitch and YouTube at the same time. We prefer doing that because there's a big enough audience, and I think it's a nice thing to do. So unfortunately, we don't have a subscribe button. If you want to support the channel other ways, there's obviously a Patreon. Obviously, that's if you have your Prime sub, you just want to put it to good use. I get it, but I appreciate the offer regardless, but it's not something I can actually implement. More than just having to steal half the agendas in the deck, you can get into situations where neither player can win with negative agenda point cards or the like. That was a demo. How's it going? Yeah, it's possible. It's kind of hard. I think that's like the issue you see sometimes, like really awkward games with what's it called, Project of Acheron. All right, so it looks like they probably did pull a world tree from their grip. They pulled 2 cards out of their grip. I haven't been really paying attention to what they're doing, but here's where the bad publicity can be an issue. They trash your Spin Doctor. Obviously, don't love it. Thank you, Thanos. So telework, and they have good money here. So we have a public trail. They have more than enough cards in hand. So for what it's worth, it's actually kind of fun sometimes to hit a public trail here because they generally pay 8. If they had less than 4 cards in hand, that obviously gets a bit more interesting because then they really have to do it. Here we could, in theory, public trail and trash 2 resources. That's like not the best. For us, it's going to cost 8 credits. For them, it would cost 8 credits. So they probably go down to 3 credits to be on 5. I don't know. I feel like we can just score this out. We could consider like icing up HQ, but I don't think we care about the axis. So we can either advance this once more time or put an ice on somewhere else. I'm just going to advance this one more time because even if we score a 3-2 agenda or draw, sorry, a 3-2 agenda, we can do install advance and then put an ice here. We do want to advance the Messna Chespo at some point in our life. But I don't know what it's going to take for them to run. I think here they're going to translate the DZMZ maybe with an overclock into an endurance. Oh, Mayfly's really good. We have, in theory, Whoredoms we can triple advance, but it's generally not worth it. So daily cast became more card draw. This is where, like, imagine this was a hard hitting news. Like, obviously they can run and trash something to get a misdirection, but like, yeah, we're not playing standard, unfortunately. Hernando, cool. That's really interesting where you can play these, like, you know, tech cards that you can pull in the matchups you need. That's, again, why 50 card deck might not be unreasonable with Isla, with World Tree, at least. Let's draw once, Atlas, server 3, and then we'll put this on server 3. So this, we can go ahead and just trash the ice wall to make it 7 strength if we want. I think actually there's a good value of having the ice wall here because it does make it, you know, they can't just run it for free and then get their value. That being said, this is going to be really expensive. But 7 strength here probably doesn't deal with the Mayfly unless they overclock. Hey, Flesh and Blood, I'm always glad you co-stream. I rarely am on Twitch, but always catch you on here. Yo, I reckon with that name, you probably enjoy Flesh and Blood. I've been tuning in a bit more because the new set is coming out. This actually doesn't work with Mayflies and on AI. And as somebody who classically, haven't played Flesh and Blood in about a year. I'm going to go to that pre-release. That seems fun. All right, do we get a game point? Yeah, why not? We have no fast events in this list. So at this point, the cool thing is anything we put in their remote server, they have to consider interacting with. So I value getting to that state more so than I actually value being able to close the game off. Now, they're not threatening Clot here. Here, I assume with enough credits, they'll get some resource that might matter. Yeah, there you go. You have a new spoiler for Fab? Oh, sick. Los? That's fine. It's def a great game. I've heard Azalea is like playable at some sort of top level, which makes me really excited as somebody who liked Azalea or likes Ranger more than probably should. Okay, here we could play Troubled Trail, play 4 for 8. I think we just want to draw once, get something in the remote server. Pharos on the remote server is like reasonable. I don't think we care about the axes on centrals. We want them to be running a fair bit. So we'll just put something in server 3 and we'll just ice it up. And middly here, we don't want to res, like we'll just end up resing the ice wall because this thing is going to cost us like 11 credits. So just getting something on server 3 is good enough. We might just lose to R&D. They have to pull a breaker. She's def getting there now. Outside is the super geared for Ranger, but her specifically. Yeah, I saw some of the cool cards. And I know that there's Azalea support and quivers and all that kind of stuff. If you like your Azalea, you're going to live the new set for sure. Hey, cool. Yeah, no, I don't know if they still make like the, what's it called? The standalone Blitz decks. I think that's the only way I've been playing Flesh and Blood is like we have pre-constructed, like generally equal power value. Oh, beans. They're checking it. That's really good for them. But we just play like pre-con, like a board game. So we have cards all the way up to what's it called? Monarch. And we just have pre-con decks. Pantograph, cool. Are they not on endurance? I think if we score this out, we're in an issue because we're not actually on enough agendas for this to matter. Like we only have 2 hostiles in the list, if I'm not mistaken, which is a problem. They have 6 new decks for the set. 6 new decks? So I still think we do this because it's probably going to favor us. They have 15 credits, but a lot of their economy generation has gone away. They're getting 5 clicks a turn, mind you, and our reses are going to be really expensive. Stone ship. But in theory, they have to run this or they can lose the game. So we'll see what they do. I'm going to be trying the commons only fab format one of these days. Yo, Ixaron, there was a store in Toronto or around, it wasn't in Toronto, in Canada, that was selling like $13 pre-con decks of similar quality. So here we just want them to spend money. Do we want to spend 11? No, I think we want them to spend the Mayfly. And I think it's a really, really great way to learn the game. I don't like Blitz as a format. The pre-con Blitz decks, I don't think Blitz is great. This will be 7 strength. It costs us 6 to res. I think they have to break that. We want to res 2 ice here so that the bad pub doesn't get too good. What are we trashing? What are we trashing? 7 strength is a huge difference. Yeah, we'll trash something. I don't think we're gonna res that Pharaohs anytime soon. There's a store in my area that my friend opened that is trying to set up a league, and he's willing to give me a deck. Oh, sick. Yeah, no, the game's actually really cool. It's a really interesting game. So now resing the ice wall actually doesn't do anything because it costs them only 1 credit. So anything a big strength is worth doing. So we're not gonna res this. Now this, we're already underneath Beth. This we res for 7 because it's over 10, right? At least 10. So that drops us down to almost all our economy. They break this for, that's fine. I picked up the new Doomtown re-release and I've been enjoying that. Yo, IXWT, how's it going? I played it with Pat. Oh, that's probably going to be annoying for us. And I ordered my own copy. I didn't kickstart it, but I've ordered it because I'm looking forward to it. It's really fun. Sorcery's been pretty appealing as an old head in the card game space. Yeah, I don't know enough about Sorcery. It seems to me like it's sold off of the speculative market more than anything else. Oh, the Falcons. So here they can de-res our ice. Luckily, we don't mind de-resing a Stavka. And here, like, is where we could, in theory, public trail and see what they do. Because if they spend 8 here, then we can do install advance. It still might be close. They're actually playing like a really goofy list. Now the Los makes a bit more sense. So they paid 6. So now we can maybe do install advance. We're unfortunately on 12 credits. Like the advance off of our ability, as it's not optional, it got us over to the Hernando level, which is not great. Huge spec market in the Fab Whales group. Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. All right, they got to run this. They got all their birds. Again, this is where you get a border control. Imagine we had border control in this format. Unfortunately, we were playing a startup deck. But border control here, whereas does Fab have a wiki? Rohit, I'm not actually sure. What do you like? They have a lot of websites for deck building and stuff like that. They're not going to de-res. So this is the code gate breaker. So I think actually they might be a couple credits too short. I just got to do math. Because remember, when we res something, they'll get 2 credits. So if we res the ice wall, they'll be on 7. This they have to break for 1. So probably not worth it. But we're going to get credits anyway. So yeah, that's probably fine. And then that will drop us under, no, we'll still be on 10. So then we res this for 7. Again, we only need 1 credit to be able to score this out next turn. So that's fine. And then this thing, they're going to have to install the Peregrine. They're going to have to boost it and then break at least 1 of the subroutines. So unfortunately, we don't have another public trail. I'm going to go res everything though. Doomtown ties Netrunner from my favorite game of all time. The deck building alone is amazing. The deck building in Doomtown is so cool. And if you don't know the basic conceit, it is the idea that that your cards not only are like cards with abilities, but they also have suits and values, just like a 52 bicycle deck. And then you use that deck to play poker off the top of your deck. And that's how you determine who wins in shootouts. It's really cool. So here they have to install this though. They have unique connections. They have a lot of them. So this is going to come down for, I think, 1 credit. Yeah. So they're actually credit perfect. Well, they're going to lose all their money potentially. We don't have the punishment in hand. They actually broke both subroutines. Oh, they had enough money to do that? Okay. That's the one, the poker game. Yeah, Doomtown's great. And they just have a new core set that came out. It's pretty expensive. You don't even get a full play set of things, which is like, you know, kind of upsetting. If we advanced the Messna Chesvo, we would have been fine. So the question is, how can they just bully us? And I think they can. We're going to definitely need to extract the ice wall. Advancing this puts us on 10 credits. We want to avoid doing this. Putting this in the remote server is also kind of bad. Clicking for a credit's kind of bad too. So I guess we will advance it. It gives them a card, and I think I'd rather have them a card than a credit. Core sets where you don't get full play sets, everyone loves those. Yeah, it's like kind of really bad considering it's also like $70. But it's a small production. And you can just play it as a board game, so whatever. So the question is, how cheaply can they run this? If we actually had punishment in our hand, and mind you, honestly, just having, I haven't seen a simul chip yet, but like just having, what's it called, would be fine. Like a retribution. But the issue here is like we don't have hard hitting news, which would obviously be a play. We only have end of the line, which we need to get them with low cards in hand. So we could do install, which will duck the 5 credits. Unfortunately, then we don't have money to res both of these. We do install advance, and then we have to do something else. I think we can bluff this, but like border control would have won 3 years ago. So that's unfortunate. I'm going to push it no matter what we have to force them into here. I think we can consider installing this. The problem here is we res this only costs us 5, so we actually can't score this out. That's expensive. That might be in Canadian dollars. So American is probably a bit lower. Hey, what's the new start core set called? Yo, Frisbee. It's called Doomtown, the Weird West edition. Specifically, you want Weird West. It'll be the one that came out this year or late last year. It's just showing up in stores right now. I think they've like settled Kickstarter, and you can probably pre-order it from places. Beth and Hernando seems like a nombo. Yeah, to some extent, but like for Paula's, I think they just need as many unique connections as you want. Yeah, from Pinebox, yeah. It's actually gonna be really hard to find the wrong core set. Oh, we just win. Considering the core sets haven't been in stock for a while. Turbine Bird deck, almost as jank as mine. Oh, that's why I did the math wrong, because of the turbine. Yeah, very, very true. I thought they didn't have the money, but they did. Good game. Neat deck. Oh, they're gone. Okay, cool. That was neat. A lot of weird pieces. We just kind of pushed in the remote server and ignored everything else. For what it's worth, they ignored everything else. Like they didn't put some pressure on us, so we were allowed to just do that over and over again. And obviously we're playing a startup deck, so we don't have the punishment we expect from standard. Let's do that again. I just want to make sure I have the deck. I do have the deck, right? I think I pre-imported this. Yeah, we have it. I just hit the wrong deck. Cute deck. Yeah, that was cool. That was actually kind of neat. I wonder how like good the D-Res package gets in, but like that's a big problem with the birds is that the boosting strength is pretty bad. So it's actually like a pretty genuine good combination with what's it called? You know, K2CB turbine. It's also not clear, and it'd be easier if we saw their side of the board, whether it'd be better just to play Kaba Nessa as opposed to Isla. They did use their MV RAM though. They drew a bunch from it. I'm trying to figure out what buttons I'm going to be hitting. Silly modernism. That's on me. Once more with feeling. Like buying 3 cores at Netrunner to get a playset of Desperados. Yeah, that's obviously bad. Nobody liked that, but that's not the case anymore. But like for what it's worth, Fantasy Flight Games no longer releases core sets that don't have full playsets for like a lot of good reasons. Besides maybe how many they sell. But the price point went up a bit, but then you get a full playset. So I think that's better for everyone. So cute to lose this to startup deck. Okay, come on. Part of the problem with birds is that installing them is painful to start. Yes. Yeah. You don't have London Library anymore. Paul is Taste Deck Spot. And I can't believe there's not been, okay, I'll be honest. I can believe there hasn't been like a competitive Paula's deck, but like it's close. Did they ever fix the observer count max on Jinteki? No. Is there a max? Like spectator? No. Cool. We're seeing all the weird stuff in standard. I thought standard we were just gonna see all the like, you know, hyper competitive. I've been playing way too much startup. Thanks, you too. Hey Ian, I bought System Gateway and have been playing several games with a friend of mine. So far the corporation has had an abysmal win rate. Any advice on playing Corp from just Gateway starter decks? Ian, that's a really good question. Unfortunately, to answer that properly, it's gonna derail my game entirely. Like we're not gonna play a turn until like 10 minutes in. So either I will try and remember that question until after, or you can ask it again in chat after this game and we can spend 5 to 10 minutes answering that question on its own. Does that sound reasonable? 52 card null deck? What is this? Hand, honestly, fine. Like we don't have anything aggressive. I don't think null's going to have an uneconomy. Yeah. Corping is really hard when you're new. Yeah, corping is much harder than runner. Corps can't accidentally win the game. Runners can. So I think Corp is definitely the more difficult side. Yeah. You can't win as Corp and Gateway. Sounds good. Thanks. Yeah, Ian, remind me if I don't. Gateway starter deck dive would honestly be content I'd watch. I'll keep that on mine. There's like, we did that one deck review where we got a replay in from players who were like relatively new to the game and they were playing interesting decks and obviously, you know, they were new to the game. Oh, I should hit end turn. I want to do more of that content. I need to ask. I need to ask for feedback. We got way more credits on that, mind you. Now we're playing the outfit. Once they understand the fundamentals, Gateway Corp will never win. I don't think that's exactly true. I do think you have one good defensive upgrade, but you also have traps. This is going to be a really short game. They installed Proco and then Axis, and we have hard-hitting news in our hand. Like, there's no way that was it. Okay, so we'll just do that. We obviously don't have the kill in hand, so the question is, what is our next click? We can draw one safely. If it's an agenda, like whatever. Okay, it's not. So we're just gonna put this on R&D. Admittedly, this is something that will loosen them up. If so, they go ham through it. They'll have net damage and less cards in hand, and then we'll just obviously do that button. But accessing against Wayland with 1 credit, that can't be good. New Netrunner podcast also this week. Honestly, kind of the best week Netrunner stuff since PH Root released this week. Ooh, jailbreak. What's the podcast? Neon Static. Is that your podcast? That's cool. This is a very dangerous play. Oh, this is very, very fast, very loose, which like sometimes it works. I don't think you want to take these sort of like, that's the thing. I don't think you should take this risk on turn one. I think risks like this are maybe worth considering if you have a terrible win condition. Like if you are very unfavored, you can play faster and looser. I don't think there was any reason on turn one with a card like this that has really good value over time, and the outfit can be a fast deck, that you need to take those risks. So yeah, we'll see. No, it's not my podcast. I do a podcast, but I need an outside motivation co-host, to be honest. Whose podcast is this? Subsidy on HQ. Again, we don't have the win. We don't have a boom. We only have a single end of line. So like, it's actually going to be a bit tricky for us to close the game off. Like, honestly, relatively tricky. So another bad publicity is like on the verge of okay. Embarrassing for me. Jillian, how's it going? What do you mean? I was thinking about starting a podcast and you really beat me to the punch. Do it. Look, let me do my turn real quick. Make content. Make terrible content. It is totally cool to make bad content. If you enjoy Netrunner and you think sitting down with yourself, ideally with a friend, it makes it, you know, easier because then it's like a fun thing to do with friends, and just talk about Netrunner, that's going to be fun. And then you can re-listen to it. Obviously, some people don't like the sound of their voice. And if you don't like it, you destroy it. You do somebody you care about. You get genuine feedback and then you do it again. And by Jove, by the third time you've done it, you're going to have something you'd be like, oh, I'm okay releasing this. And in obviously a couple of years, you'll look back at it and be embarrassed. But like, who isn't? Honestly, make bad content. It is so important that people make bad content. Otherwise, you don't make good content. And maybe it could be good content, you know? Making bad content is the first step to making great content. Exactly. Make bad content all the time. It is so important to make bad content. People are terrified of it. That seems, that's a wild install. This is the bravest null I've ever seen. I am like kind of on board with this null. They're forcing us to like play the, like we honestly can't win that easily. Luckily we got to trash that. But we're trying to win on points. But they're like trucking it out. For what it's worth, I think they should just smash through R&D all over and over and again. We've seen their multi-axis. Seriously good advice, Chrissy. I'm glad you agree. But for real, like I know people are embarrassed about it. I want to make so much more content for what it's worth. Like I've been really recently enjoying and appreciating podcasts for like all sorts of games. Like I listened to Flesh and Blood, Marvel Champions, Arkham Horror podcasts, and podcasts are great. Even bad podcasts are good. So whatever. I'm not sure I've ever really made content. There's so much content on there on how to make content too. Like it's kind of the easiest time to do it. Microphones, relatively affordable. Editing software, literally free. Like we just want to get to 5 points. We have 3 hostiles on the list. I hope someone can clip the laugh and destroy it statement. Look, there's bad stuff. I've made bad stuff and be like, nobody can see this. Who's seen this? We have to talk to them. Yeah, that sort of thing. We can't all be Run Let's Click, but we can have a good time doing our thing. There's so many other really good podcasts though. It's not just only Run Let's Click. Run Let's Click is great, but like Terminal 7 slapped. Now he's going to run out of names, which is super embarrassing. All the modern Flesh and Blood podcasts. Sorry, let me try that again. All the modern Netrunner podcasts are really good. Those Rode Podcast Pro mics are solid for the money. Yeah, even just like a Blue Yeti is kind of standard. Hey, Eris, thank you. Good luck with the stream. Cheers. Hopefully you're having a good enough evening. We trashed a Berserker. That's kind of cool. If this is the gateway deck we are talking about, the runner would have to make too many mistakes to not win. It's really the runner's game to lose. In gateway or right now? There's the Time Travel Netrunner podcast. It's great. Yeah, I don't think that's continued for a while. I think the Time Travel Netrunners podcast is actually like a really good podcast for people who've played Netrunner for a really long time. I reckon actually like newer players could get something out of it as well. But that one's interesting because it's like a historic look at, and I feel like I'm gonna keep that on hand. Myself, I really appreciate it. I wish there was more of it. Leaving R&D open is a bit of a risk. If they blunder into a bulwark, it's okay. The border control is kind of doing enough. I just don't want to lose off of R&D. My dad is a programmer, so I got this weirdly specific internet stranger danger, which most parents in the 90s weren't really capable of. I mean, RLC is a group of extremely charismatic people with a professional studio. Terminal 7 was boss. Terminal 7 is really good. Trillian, in response to what? I love the beginner Netrunner podcast. I can't recall the name of it. It was a married couple. Oh, that was a tabletop kitchen table. I think it was called Kitchen Table, something like that. All right, well, I'll trash a bulwark. Sorry, I'll trash a fermenter, I guess. It's called Kitchen Table. I think there might be another word in it, but yeah, their stuff was good. And I really appreciated that because it was a podcast from the angle of people who are like playing the game relatively casual, but also like seeing how they experienced the game and like when they went to competitive events, understanding the archetypes. I thought that was a really cool podcast. Kitchen Table Netrunner. Thank you. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. There is they don't I don't think they make any more episodes. Yeah, it was cool. They got spoiler cards and stuff, and I think I listened to a couple of their episodes around that time. And yeah, it was really cool to hear them. Like, I went to an event. This was the archetype I was worried about. If they hit a snare here, we don't win, but it couldn't hurt. They trashed it too big to fail. I have no read. This seems okay. 1 and 4, we win. We win. All right, we got lucky there. That was the only way easily we got out of this game, because admittedly, as much as they went tag me on turn 1, it was not so much the tag me that cost them the game. It was the fact that they don't have an economy. Maybe it was all resources, but luckily the snares carved us away there. All right, we have a question about startup. Or sorry, gateway. I have no idea what their deck is. There's so many ideas in here. There's multiple copies of buffer drive. There's like the breakers you don't see, like probably the least common Anarch breakers, things like a Dore. We saw a Berserker, which got shuffled back in with Verbal. Past game, yeah. The turn 1 HHN. But for what it's worth, I couldn't close it. If you didn't hit that snare, still got to score out. Can't they pop buffer drive to put a card in hand? It doesn't put a card in hand. It puts on top of the deck. Buffer drive allows you to recur cards from shuffle, but it doesn't actually add cards to hand. So it's like a weird safety card. Yeah, top of stack, right? So you can set it up, especially if you click this card draw, you can like sequence it really nice, but it doesn't actually do anything but hand. The game was rigged from Thanks for the game. Yeah, that's a wild list. They were playing way over 45, and they didn't use their null ability, but not that was relevant. But yeah, just face checking there. Like, if you are going to go tag me, that sort of aggression is kind of what you need to do, because the way out is like trashing the booms. Admittedly, hitting a snare costs you, but it's going to do. Buffer drive Q loop. I've never done that combo, and so much of it is that I don't like buffer drive as a card. All right, Ian, you still here? Paging Ian. T7 RLC were my favorite FFG era podcasts. I listen to every current Netrunner podcast I know because my job gives me like at least 35 hours of listening time every week. Do you listen to other podcasts? You're here. Okay, cool. Let's talk about it. Yeah, I've been really into. I've only listened to Mythos Busters for the first time ever, which is like the big one. They have the biggest like community space. I've always been part of their Discord to ask rules questions, but I've listened to them for the first time recently. I was listening to Cardboard of the Ring for a while now. I haven't played Lord of the Rings in a minute, and then I don't know, for Marvel Champions, I think my favorite podcast right now is the ones that are more lore based, because there's a lot of superhero stuff that I just don't know. And then things like Critical Encounters, where they sit down to be like, let's explain to you who Arnim Zola is. And then listening to like, you know, the ridiculous saga from the 60s onwards of how like, you know, the rival to Captain America has his mask glued onto his face and he's pretty upset about it. Like, that's great. I honestly would listen to a podcast where they just go through like comic book history in a pretty digestible way. I mostly listen to the SVWAG these days. What is that? I don't know that acronym, Prissy. I also listen to every Netrunner podcast I can get my hands on. Glad someone else is suffering from the not enough hours of podcast issues. Oh, I recently listened to, it's been a minute. I had to catch up on a bunch of the last, what's it called? Shadow Nets. Those are really fun. Oh, so very wrong about games. Thank you. You can load up System Gateway Corp deck and talk as you play. I don't know if we're going to get into a Gateway Corp deck. I just want to show kind of what I think about Gateway Corp as a whole. Actually, wait, no, we're gonna pull the deck up at a minimum, right? So how do we find it? System Gateway Corporation deck. Right, you should do it. They're a very great Canadian board game podcast. I've heard the name. Ian, we talking about the 34 card one, like the basic one, or the upgraded one? That's the question. Which one we're talking about? Well, we can start here. When you add 4 more cards, you actually do get some additional win conditions, but it's still really difficult. So let's preface this with, this is not the best Netrunner deck ever made, but it's actually a really good teaching deck, and it touches a lot of the fundamentals of the game in a really good way. We don't have an ID ability. Generally, that's pretty good. Upgraded with tags and all 44 cards, please. Oh, okay, sick. We got a bit more to play with. How do we find that? Oh, thank you. If you want a comic book history podcast, Jay and Miles explain the X-Men is great. I haven't listened in a long time. Thank you for the recommendation. I actually know very little about the X-Men, and I'm about to dive into that part of what's it called, of Marvel Champions. So what the heck is the magic? Okay, so let's talk about a bunch of things with this deck. We need to score out generally. You have alternate win conditions, but the alternate win conditions in this deck are very limited. And the one big card that can represent an alternate win condition is Urtica Cipher. Now, this card exists. Your deck doesn't make the biggest use out of it, but just the understanding that there's a card in the game that if you go install Advance, and the runner runs it, they can take 4 net damage, let alone it's not an agenda, actually opens up the game in a lot of ways. And if your opponent respects that, there even are some plays where you can do install advance agenda into a naked remote server without any ice in front of it, which is a really wild idea, but just understand that this card exists as a constant threat. Getting your runner to run into this is actually like a good thing to do. It's relatively expensive to spend your whole turn installing and advancing this, and then if they don't run it, you get no value from this. There's no real reason to continue to advance this. So just keep that in mind, that this is a card that on its own can be an alternate win condition based off of how aggressively you pursue this and how aggressively your opponent respects it. Otherwise, we need to talk about the agendas because the agendas are pretty bad. You need to score 7 points of agendas, and that's actually kind of something you want to math out in this deck. You'll notice mostly you have 4-2 agendas, which means that if you want to score out entirely 4-2 agendas, you're going to have to score out 4 of them. So you want to avoid that. Ideally, you're scoring out a 5-3 agenda at some point in the game. Send a message is a nice thing to do. Install advance, right? That threat. And then you're scoring out 2 of the 4-2 agendas. Our agendas are not made equally. This is the good agenda in the deck. All the other agendas are relatively bad. The only upside for send a message is that it can potentially get stolen, and then that does something good for you as long as your board state believes it. Oh, they're playing to 6 points? Oh, Alvin, thank you. That's huge. Okay, you're playing to 6 points, so that math is wrong. That being said, that brings us to our superconducting hub, which you probably never want to score ever. It's not worth it. Don't do it. Don't spend your whole turn, or in fact, turn in a bit and 3 credits to score at this 3-1. The ability isn't it 7 points of your full deck? I think it might still be 6. I'm going to wait for a second before. It's 7 for the 44. So it's 6 for the 30 or the 40, right? Okay. Upgrade 1 to 7. Hey, try 7 for the boost. Okay. Hold on. We'll edit that. Okay. You just have to understand that a bunch of your agendas are going to be pretty bad. This is the good one. You try and score these out. Everyone else is not very good. Again, 3-1 agendas in Netrunner have classically been very, very bad. And if you want to use the system gateway deck as a way to kind of fast track that learning, this is the worst ratio between time, money, and points it gives you. The ability it gives you, it's okay. It's not amazing. It's okay. But just keep that in mind. It's not great. Yeah. So that being said, you want to score out your other agendas and you want to map out your route to 7. It's actually really difficult, and it's very, very hard unless you can score out a send a message. So at some point in time, you have to do install advance. There's no way around that. Other thing to understand is that economy is super important. In this game, if you don't have money, you just can't do things. You just can't resonate your ice. You can't make plays. And one of the best things to do in Netrunner is constantly make plays as a corporation, right? Constantly put things in a remote server. Constantly put the runner in a spot where if they just did nothing besides set up their side of the table, they will lose the game. Inherently, that means just spending your turn taking 3 credits, which is something you might have to do every once in a while when your economy gets absolutely gutted. Maybe you've rezzed a lot of ice. You're going to have to do that. But as much as possible, you want to avoid that, which actually makes some of these cards very, very important. So it's super important that cards like Regolith, cards like Nico Campaign, you are protecting in a remote server because you need to really get the full value you can from them. Otherwise, your economy is going to struggle. When it comes to operation economy, you actually are pretty generous. You do have the predictive planograms, you do have the subsidies, and subsidies is something you want to kind of keep in mind. If you're holding one in hand and a runner's running R&D to sing a single card and you could res ice, but it drops you underneath or far away from 10 credits, just let that axis go through. Getting up to 15 credits is a bigger, more important thing than stopping a single axis. Hey Aaron, how's it going? Otherwise, the 2 big things about this deck, and I think the most important thing about playing the System Gateway deck, is ice positioning is the most important thing. Out of all your ice, eventually, what happened to your upper lip? Most of this ice will eventually be broken by the System Gateway runner, and if you play the full Gateway pool with the deck builder, this is even more true, but gets actually broken relatively cheaply. And there's only certain pieces of ice that are actually very, very taxing. The first one is Brun. There's almost no way in the format for the runner to break brawn well, and for that reason, placing the one brawn you can generally afford to res per game is really important. A lot of times, you don't want this on HQ, obviously you don't want this on archives, this is going to be the ice you put on the remote server, because no matter how you slice it, it's really hard for the runner to run through this more than once every 2 to 3 turns, and that's really important considering we have stuff to put in the remote server and we want to score out agendas. So your ice placement is one of the most important things you can focus when playing a corp deck with System Gateway to ensure that you're getting the most out of your very limited options. I think that's actually the biggest thing I see when people are playing System Gateway and they lose the game is their ice placement just didn't make a lot of sense. Without going too deep into it, when it comes to ice in this game, a lot of ice is divided into like 2 to 3 terms. Firstly, there's ice that's called like gear check ice. It's ice that on its own forces the runner to find a tool to deal with it, but once they're dealing with it, they're dealing with it relatively cheap. So getting something like a palisade on a central server will eventually be broken for 1 credit, if I'm not mistaken, within the format. They just cleaver through it. So palisade on the remote server, it's okay, and it means that you can be pretty safe in the remote server until they get a breaker down. At that point, it's not that taxing. Then there's ice that's just taxing no matter which way you cut it. Things like brawn are going to be like, they can always get through this, but it's very taxing. Spending your whole turn, that's a big cost. I think the next big ice here you have is Funhouse. And admittedly, at some point, the runner might just say, I don't care about tags, and they go through this for free. But it's another ice that they can deal with. It's actually very difficult to deal with very easily. Brand on R&D can slow down a conduit. That's the only other thing. The only other real big threat the runner can produce in System Gateway is Conduit. Conduit is the card that runs R&D and then gains virus counters and eventually sees more and more cards on R&D. And that's the second way you lose if you can't score out agendas in a remote server, is that they just conduit you to death. If that's the case, you are going to need your second best taxing piece of ice on R&D. That's generally where I will put my second brown if I can find it, or your fun houses or something like that. Because so much of this ice in the format, like the white spaces, they get broken for very cheaply. The diviner gets broken for very cheaply. What's the code gate? I think it's Unity in the format. But none of this stuff like holds out really well. So those are the 2 servers that are the most important to protect in the format, for whatever that's worth. Funhouse is a bit of a joke with 1 attribution means very little. It does threaten the resources, but you're right. A lot of times runners will go tag me, and then you don't have the most punishment to follow it up. You only have 1 card that cares about it. Talking about cards, Seamless Launch, one of the best cards in the deck. It means that you don't have to do install advance. Considering all you have is 4-2 agendas, you can just put cards in the remote server and the runner has to guess what they are. Are they upgrades? Are they assets? Are they agendas? And then you can score them out cheaply, and that's really nice. It's worth noting that with tags, you have Public Trail, and this is also a really important card. This is one of the rude ways you can interact with the runner. If they're relying on resources, as any point in time where they don't have those 8 credits, you can just pay 4 credits and then you can spend clicks to trash their stuff. Let alone if you have the Singleton Retribution, you can trash the Conduit or one of their breakers, and that builds you a window. There's a lot of cases where you need to keep this in mind as like your backup win condition. It's still really difficult. Are we building gateway decks, or are we just analyzing the pre-builds? Yeah, we're just analyzing because we got a question from Ian talking about like, how do you win with the corp deck and gateway? I do think it's harder to win with this than the runner, but basically talking about like how to play this deck to some extent. This is also the best card in the deck. Managarm Skunkworks. If you can get this on the remote server, that's really, really good. It's hard for the runner to get through the ice like a brawn and then still have time to deal with this and still have time to trash this. While you could put this on any server, generally we want to put on the remote server because you're going to need something where you can protect your agendas. Amaze Amusements, for what it's worth, whatever, it doesn't really do anything. And unfortunately, there are cards like this that are just not that impactful for the deck. I think that's largely it though. It is somewhat straightforward, but if you just focus on best fundamentals, things like planning your turnout, ice positioning, and keeping your economy up, that's good. Making sure that you understand where the runner is going to run, things like making sure R&D and then your remote server are the ones you generally want to protect most often, that's really important. For what it's worth in the format, and I think barring Leech, there's almost no reason to ice up HQ if you can take your agendas smoothly from HQ and put them into your protected remote server. So that's not always the case. Again, if you don't have a good remote server, you don't have economy, then agendas crop up into HQ, but yeah, that can be an issue for you. But like, those are the servers that you don't have to protect that well. You generally will lose off of R&D or the remote server. And if you don't have the remote server, then you lose to HQ because the agendas can't go anywhere. Hopefully that helps. Again, I don't know if you know about the AI online, but there's the Chiriboga app that you can play online against an AI and that you can just get reps in. And the AI is like not bad. It's not amazing, but it'll give you some practice. But I would focus on ice placement. Thank you very much. Of course, anytime you got a question, ask away. as exciting as Netrunner is and as cool as System Gateway is, as soon as you take one step further, and if you got the deck building pack and you can start playing, identities that have text on them with like all the HB cards, and then you have 15 influence to use the way that you want to, you'll realize how cool this game is. Because right now you're playing the most blandest, less synergistic list possible to you, for better or for worse. So it just gets better from here. Oh, the last thing I haven't said, if you do believe in the install advance, make it look like an Erdica cipher, you do have one additional line to the game, which is you can do install advance, and orbital superiority. If they don't run it because they think it's a trap like an Erdica cipher, you can wait for a turn where they've run, and then you do public trail to give them a tag because they can't play 8 credits. And mind you, 8 credits is a lot of money in the System Gateway starter decks. And then you can score this out, advance, score it, and then they'll take 4 meat damage. That is the only alternate win condition you have in this list, and that's very much worth keeping in mind if you do that play. But that play is ridiculous, and it'll line up once in a blue moon. I have died to it. Hey, Andre, good morning from Europe. Hey, Daniel, how's it going? Good evening in Europe. Morning in Europe already? Hit it with the space laser, yeah. How do you feel about the startup cycle rule? Do you think it has too little cards to play with? Try, how's it going? I think startup right now kind of slaps. I think there are some issues with the startup card pool. That's obviously because it's small. That kind of horseshoes you into different directions. Hold on. This is another like tirade. Startup Anarch is a problem. Startup Anarch is such a problem right now. Startup Anarch is messed up. I like Startup so much more now than I did pre-rotation. The Startup card pool has shrunk. But the cool thing is the cards that are left in the card pool are almost all bangers. Like they're almost all very playable cards. So it feels like you can explore most of the design space. That being said, if you're playing competitively, I do think like 80% of every Shaper deck is going to be the same. And that's because they're playing with, again, 60% of the card pool in just about every deck you build. Same for runners, same for all the corps, same for that. I do think corps have multiple win conditions. They actually feel like they have teeth. They can attack from different angles. I think all that stuff is really good. So I do think the card pool is small, but I think that makes it approachable. And I do think you can explore a lot of different fundamental archetypes in the space. I also don't think the space has any like cards that are banned in standard because they're kind of toxic, that are illegal and running in startup. So that's always really great. I think the fact that there's so few 5-3 agendas makes the game way more fun. Maybe I'm the odd one out, but I just don't like 5-3 agendas as a whole. I think it's fantastic. That being said, is if you're playing for startup for a really long time, you might want at that point to play with a bigger card pool. Think like, oh, every Shaper deck I play is like the same 60%, 70% of the same deck. And that's probably true. I don't think it makes the games less fun or less interesting, but then you can go to standard if you want to. And I'd recommend it. Standard is actually really quite cool. But yeah, there are some pinpoints with any format. You want to talk about them? Because I do. I think startup right now is slaps, and I'm honestly not at the point where I need a bigger card pool. And I've been playing mostly startup for the last month. HB53 is busted. Yeah, it's out. It's not. It's banned in standard. It's rotated from startup. So Flesh, we don't have it. Let's do F is faction, right? Runner, Anarch, Z, startup. This is my only problem. The sports medal one, yeah, that one's been banned in standard, and it's rotated. It's one of the cards I'm very excited has rotated from startup. 5-3 agendas are fine as long as the 6-7 agenda deck aren't the meta. I don't like 5-3 agendas, and now I'm kind of on board with Null Signal's idea to not make 5-3 agendas anymore. I like densities going up. I like decks that aren't playing as few agendas as possible, so they can win off of alternate win conditions. I like where there's still a problem with your deck, which is the agendas. Don't like it. Thoughts on Startup Anarch? So, Deer posted this list. Deer claiming that this is one of the best decks you can play in Startup. And it is Liberté, Égalité, and then it was edited to be Renee, which is perfect. Such an accident by Toxic Agenda Slate. I don't understand the 5-3 hate at all. Sure. Think small card pool and fast meta change is always fun. Thanks for your thoughts. No, it's great right now. Maybe ask me in like 2-3 months if there hasn't been a new rotation, but there's going to be no rotation in startup come June. So it's not gonna be that long. So there's a problem right now with Anarch and startup. And that is like threefold. Firstly, consoles. Anarch consoles right now are really bad. The biggest issue right now with startup is kind of endurance. Endurance doesn't feel as powerful and broken in standard because corporations are actually attacking in different ways. I think that's cool. But let's look at the consoles you have in this format. There's 2 consoles. How do we get that console? Is it subtype? There are 2 consoles in the format in startup in Anarch. And again, you can splash consoles from out of faction, and that's where we're getting, you have Carnivore, which on its own never saw a lot of play. I think it's a bit undertuned. It's a good ability, especially if you're particularly playing Lou, who is probably the most boring of the Anarchs within the format, but Okay, and then you have Marrow, and Marrow is also probably one of the worst cards in an ESA deck, but ESA has to play it on the basis that hand size is really important, and it has text on it that you forget about, right? Ever tried pitching Steelskin to Carnivore? I have. It's good. It's not bad. No more 5/3s will be made. It seems like they should be limit 1 things. I think limit 1 things are okay, but then a lot of people might not include them because it doesn't always work well with trying to get to an even number of agendas. And what is 2-1-3-2, 4-2 being every deck scoring plan forever somehow better? Feels like it's going to get real samey. Obviously, it could get samey, and I don't think you always have to hit those numbers, but I think keeping the agenda density, like I can play startup and confidently say every 1 in 5 agenda cards in my corporation's deck, in my opponent's deck is an agenda, and use that heuristic when I play the game. If you watch my runner game, that number comes up so often, 1 in 5. I think that's a really good density, as opposed to like 1 in 7 sometimes, where like you can, deep dive and see nothing, somewhat not irregularly. Like I just like agendas being in the game. They're the most exciting part of the game for both players, and I like that they're there. Andre wants to bring back Vanity Project. We need more 4/6s. So this is the issue, is Anarchs currently, they don't have good console choices at all. And all the other factions have really good console choices. And that's a problem. Also, Anarchs don't have multi-access. The only cards Anarchs currently have for multi-access is Finality, and Finality is a really good card. You trade a core damage to see 4 cards on top of R&D. That's a fine trade, even if you're not playing ESA. And that's largely it, besides Sabotage. Now, Sabotage largely, and not entirely, is relegated to ESA decks. And if you ask me, I think Sabotage is a really, really fun mechanic, but I don't like playing ESA in startup because it feels like the format you're more likely to run into something like Thule or something like a Jinteki. And those are actually factions where your ability is actually an upside to them in a lot of ways. Either taking the core damage or just putting cards face down to archives. Their choice of cards can be the worst thing that you're doing for them, which basically pulls Anarch away from ESA. Again, maybe there are good ESA decks out there. I don't know. I just don't like playing it, but that's it. And then on top of that, Anarch breakers are really strange. And some of the best breakers in the format are Anarch breakers. You see things like Buzzsaw, Cleaver very commonly. And the thing with these cards is they're fixed strength breakers. Oh, Leonard, you're saying twinning. Yes, twinning. Twinning is very good, but twinning in faction is actually the worst faction to play twinning. I feel like every other faction has better ways to support the twinning. Criminal is super easy. The neutral faction, basically the only way to do it in Anarch is prepaid voice pad, and that's not very good. I think it's actually the worst twinning faction. But yeah, technically they have twinning. It's not very good. So the breaker suite's the other issue, right? Like you have Buzzsaw, on top of that you have Cleaver, and then you can also have Mimic. And you notice these breakers actually are not breakers you can rely on because they can't deal with ice above 3 strength. And the existence of these breakers, and these breakers are very, very common, means a lot of people are playing, 7 strength Stavkas, even Ballista seeing play, and bigger ice that's hard for these to deal with. These cards see a lot of play out of faction because out of faction, people are playing them with support cards. Things like K2CP Turbine are super common in Shaper decks, obviously Endurance as well. But here in Anarch, we're the least consistent. We have the worst ways to draw our breakers. Our breakers need a lot of support to be even close to functional, as many Leech and Ice Carvers as you can or can't play. Which kind of puts you into the one spot that Anarch can be in startup, which is you have to spend Endurance. I don't think you can make a functional non-ESA deck in the format without playing Endurance. Maybe. I don't see it. Again, I played Anarch the least because I felt like they've struggled the most because they have so many problems you need to solve. They have terrible console slots. Their breakers do not work really well. You can't produce them consistently, which every other format can do or every other faction can do. So you're in the spot where like Anarch to me competitively becomes the Endurance faction, which to me, that's such a bummer. Not that I liked Keiko and the companions better, but I just wish Anarch had one more console here or one other way to build around because currently their breaker suite, it ain't working without a lot of support. They can't produce consistently. So you just end up here. And that's why I haven't played Anarch as a deck dive because I think it's very hard to make a compelling Anarch deck where it's the best thing you should be doing is just playing 10 influence on Endurances. Required card doesn't feel like good design. Yeah, I don't know. Viruses are basically dead in startup. I think viruses are actually really good in startup. You're not seeing much of a virus. I think viruses are really quite okay. DZMZ plus Turbine? You could do it, but it's not consistent. I think Null are moving away from factions having a core breaker. I'm not sure if that's true. I think like they have the ideas, the breakers generally have these kind of like built-in faction flavor to them. Like the criminal ones still pay you. The Anarch ones are doing fixed strength breaks. That stuff is good. It's just like they all have downsides, and the Anarch downsides are like really, really kind of rough downsides. Like they kind of compound with Anarch's inconsistently inherently, but yeah. What if Anarch had breakers they could install from the heap? Ooh, now we're talking. Because then you can throw them to Carnivore and then your Lou deck. Oh, we should look into this. Come on, Poison Vile Quetzal is fun. Poison Vile Quetzal is fun. Poison Vile Quetzal is really cool, but I think this Poison Vile Quetzal Powerless Cube uploaded this deck. Like, this is probably fun and neat. For what it's worth too, I think Anarch has probably the least interesting identities out of all of Startup. They just kind of do. And I think a big part of it is they have some of the oldest identities part of Startup. Like Quetzal and Reina just were never really relevant identities. They're not very interesting to build around or often play. So they didn't see a lot of play. And I think that's kind of not the best thing for Anarch. Their identities don't feel good. But yeah, this is fine. But like, would this deck be better if we dropped, you know, the Asmon and the Poison Vials and played Endurance? Yeah, obviously it would. And I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Admittedly, this deck is on 6 Matryoshka, which like, that's obviously, it's a bit expensive if you're not playing Chesvas, but like there's a chance that's just as good as the other Breaker Suite. That being said, I would believe Deer's claims that this is one of the best decks in Startup, but it's just like, it is the same deck in Standard largely, besides the concessions of having to play Lu, and a 40 deck minimum is not bad. I love Reina. Reina's not great. We all love Reina. Reina's not great. I mean, Fermentor's Red Orb and Imp is good, but I feel like there aren't enough cards to make a virus deck. Oh, like a tribal virus deck? No, probably not. It's really hard to. I don't think you can make a straight virus deck. Like, no matter what, if you're making a straight virus deck, you're probably still going to need breakers. And again, one of the best cards for your straight virus deck turns out to be Endurance. This card is too good. It still is too good. And the fact that it's like, I think the only way you can play this faction competitively. I don't know. I'm going to go for Reina and leaning on Botchless for consistency. Penetier, how's it going? Botchless is a great card. I don't think it's anywhere near as good as it used to be. Well, to some extent, not true. Botchless is also really good with Endurance. But there's a bit of Magnet. It's not as prevalent as it used to be, but like you cannot rely on Botchless, I think, because of the amount of Magnet you're expecting to see. That being said, HB hasn't been that popular, so I don't know. I kind of want the Bin Breakers to rotate. Lucas, I want the Bin Breakers to rotate. As facetious as they're being, the Bin Breakers rotating is going to be a huge reckoning for the entire Anarch faction. It's going to be interesting. Like, whether we're all sleeping on the fact that we could just play Leech Mimic like we did 5 years ago, we'll find out very quickly. Fermentor is good. Fermentor is like low-key one of the best econ cards in Startup and in Standard. Both of them. Yeah, I don't know. It's just like, but you see this deck, this is basically like the Hashiko decks in Standard. It's just like an absolute brick of value, just a huge brick of value, the minimum multi-axis you need to play, and then Endurance, and that's it. And it's good. It's good. It's not exciting to play. It's good though. It's consistent. If we're designing cards, I'd back Anarch Breakers that you can pull from the stack or the heap to the heap for free. Pull back from the stack or heap. Just from the stack to the heap. Stack is your deck. No one ever uses that term, so it always throws me for a loop. I think there's so much cool stuff you can do with like cards that you can remove from the heap to get a value. You can shuffle them from a thing to thing. There's a lot more you could obviously explore, and I have no doubt we're going to see it. But anyways, this is my big problem with playing Anarch in Startup. Trying to get like a legitimate breaker suite is very difficult. And then you're realizing your console slot's bad, and then you're ending up here, which, yeah, it's bad. It's real hard. But every other faction's kind of good. Like every other faction, you have enough options. All the identities, like the Anarch card pool is okay. But like all the Shaper stuff is generally ridiculous. Like there's more card draw than you can put into a deck. The IDs are all relatively reasonable. Shaper has good economy, multiple ways to pressure games and close games, technically multiple economy engines, not that most of them see a lot of play. And then Criminal, you have generally a lot of the Criminal decks are relatively similar, but they're very interaction based. They're all about making successful runs, and we can't really be upset about that. They don't feel overbearing as much as they also are starting to feel more like the idea of what a criminal is, like in terms of being illegal. And I'm a big fan of that. Stack and Heap were such a great job on theming. They really are. But it throws me for a loop. Stack is the one that like never shows up. Grip shows up. Yeah, I don't know. I think Startup's cool. I think Startup is really, really cool. On the Corp side too, you have a lot more options. NBN is good. And I think Jinteki is probably a bit better than we think it is, but maybe not much. I feel like a hypocrite since I play Endurance Freedom, but just because it's a good card doesn't mean you have to play it. I don't think it's wrong to be playing other Anarch deck archetypes. But Solomir, I think we're at the point where like you're right, you don't have to play the best stuff, but I think there's a huge difference between like the mid-range non-endurance Shaper, that doesn't exist, sorry, mid-range non-endurance Criminal and Anarch decks. Like I feel like the Anarch decks have just such strong weaknesses that are so hard to overcome with deck building besides the endurance, right? Like how do you run into an op deck when all you have is Mimic? How do you find your support pieces when like you have to start splashing Mutual Favor or Into the Depths? Like there's just so many issues you're trying to overcome within your 40 card minimum. The Anarch IDs are boring, and I don't know how to pronounce this. Jejun? I think it's Jejun. But Shaper, the faction known for net installer, are cool and interesting. No, that's totally real. Like, I think that's actually a real big part. The Shaper decks are kind of interaction based. They're trying to run every turn. They have cool things they're trying to do. Padma is sailing. And I don't know. Noob question, what is the next non-NSG set block, whatever that's rotating out? I'm trying to get into Paper Netrunner with my BF, and I don't want to buy a set that's going to be useless in 4 months. The next set that's going to rotate out, if you're playing standard, will be the Flashpoint cycle. And then I think also Data and Destiny, but don't quote me on that. That should be happening. Don't quote me on this. Come this summer when the new set is coming out. It's currently codenamed Bell Tower. I don't know the real name. Nobody does. And it's going to be focusing on the political atmosphere in Netrunner future Brazil. That, at least the first half of the set, from my understanding, will be coming out at the end of June is what they're last broadcasting that. That means also for startup, this is rotating. What's it called rotating? All of Parhelion's rotating, at least if I'm not mistaken. Or actually, it might not. Startup is weird because Null Signal kind of backed up on the startup rotation because the startup rotation was meant to rotate out a full half when only a half of a cycle came out. I think they backed up on that. I got a big nope in capital letters, so I might be wrong. Yo, Jenkins, how's it going? Happy Thursday. We doing some startup tonight? I don't think we are. I've been playing almost entirely startup and like when I'm recording videos, and I'm really enjoying it, but I wanted to try the the deck list of the week from last week, which is like the Jinteki trap deck. Also, the Narendale, you don't have to label noob question if you think that's like an embarrassing question. Nah, please ask as many like noob questions as you want. That's kind of why we're here. Just play Wyvern and Boom. Order deep. I disagree. That's a huge difference. I think there's a gap, but it's not insurmountable. Yeah, I don't know. Politics in my Netrunner, tell me about it. No rotation for startup. Okay, so there won't be a rotation in startup until the second half of Bell Tower comes out, which probably is going to be at some point this year, but later at the end of this year. So startup, from my understanding, will not have a rotation anytime soon. So if you're looking to pick up just the Null Signal cards, which is most likely why you're asking this question, go get it. I would recommend obviously picking up System Gateway, System Update, and then Parhelion. Ashes is like a nice set if you want to do tabletop, like friendly kitchen table play, but it's not legal in the startup format, which is actually a pretty popular format, but it's legal in standard, which has all the FFG cards, or at least the last 4 years of FFG cards, which again, proxies are legal if you want to play organized play, so you can do it. Hey, Nikes, it's going well. How are you doing? Deck of the week, let's go. We played the actual deck. We'll do the last deck of the week. Yeah, Flashpoint should be rotating. Andre, any thoughts on the all NSG only format with getting some traction? Also, if and when D&D rotates, any comments on losing mini factions? Losing mini factions is a bummer. There's like no way around it. People love the mini factions, basically because they represent like different ways to play the game to some extent. They're all kind of like cross sections of other factions. But I think people love the narratives of the mini factions. Like I think there are 3 really cool sci-fi ideas, as much as, like Working Mom is not exactly a sci-fi idea. It's just like really refreshing to have that in your card game. And Sunny is like kind of a really fun thing to play. So that's a bummer. I think Flashpoint as a whole rotating, that's fine. Kind of tired of NBN. Kind of been an NBN winter for a while right now, so I'll probably regret that later. All NSG only format, I haven't actually really heard about that. For what it's worth, I don't know if I like Ashes. I think Ashes as a product was like a really good starting product. But like it obviously Ashes has a lot of cards that were banned or should have been banned in startup. And I feel like startup's a better format because of that. I think some of the most problematic Netrunner cards came in Ashes, and there's nothing wrong with that, pushing the envelope, but like the sort of value over time kind of games that Ashes kind of promoted. I'm glad that we're not playing Rizeki anymore. I don't like the companions that much. There's also a whole part of that. It's a very inconsistent set where basically like Jinteki got no cards. Stuff like that too. So I don't know. I honestly like startup as it is right now. I think adding Ashes to modern startup would probably not make a better format or a more interesting format. Probably not. Maybe it wouldn't change anything because the more cool cards are endurance. Startup won't rotate with Bell Tower 1. It will be with Bell Tower 2. Very, very good. Yeah. Cool. Also, rotation's confusing. I've seen tons of people have been playing for years confused about rotation. You see me? I didn't know what's happening, but I haven't looked into it. If you're looking at a Thule deck that might pique your interest, you probably shouldn't read mine. I'll read yours just because I'll leave a rude comment. Do we know approximately when all standard legal Netrunner cards will be Null Signals? I would expect Null Signal to actually start rotating a bit more aggressively than what is on the books right now. So no, I don't think we do, but I think it's going to be sooner than anyone expects. For storage, do you do binders or boxes? Struggle with a growing collection. Debogs, because it's a bit of of the version, I can show you what my collection looks. If at least one other person wants to see what my collection looks like, because I just got my Parhelion cards the other day and put them in binders, I'll go pull them down and we can go through it on camera. You need one other person to back you up. But I do binders and I organize it in a way that works for me. I like to keep my cards visual as much as I do 95% of my deck building on Netrunner DB. Is there a plan to upgrade the SU and SG? System Gateway? No way. System Update, I think at some point won't exist. That is my like conspiracy. I don't think System Update, because it is reprints of Fantasy Flight games, I don't think it's something they want to do on a long term. I think they just want to create their own like, you know, type core set thing that they're going to make out of other cards that they own. I don't think it's going to be an FFG reprint forever. That's Sunny's theme. Yeah, Sunny is just she's a working mother that goes through her work as a security consultant, and she works for the good guys. Except she also hacks into corporations using her security nexus. It's sick. It's great. And then there's all this story about like coming home to her kids, and like that's, you know, it's just very nice. Has NHG been in charge of the game longer than FFG at this point? No, there's no way. Oh, it's actually getting close, actually. I'm game. Okay, love storage solutions. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay, that was a lot of people. Rotation, some rotation. My game group has a gentle person's agreement of not playing OPS at decklist in our kitchen countertop meta. Power to you. That's sick. Okay, we're doing it. Okay, we're doing it. Hold on. You don't think SE will pull in some of their own cards? Yeah, SE will definitely become entirely, what's it called? Null signal game cards. So like, you probably won't have to purchase it if you own it. But I do think there's core parts of that are really good that exist in Null Signal's system update. Like, it's nice that Sneak Door Beta exists. It's good that insert your favorite HB card exists, right? So that's really good. 2014 to 2018 versus 2018 present. I think it's 2012 to 2018, Jectivist. The original course says 2012. Yeah, Burden has you there. Okay, let me get my binders. Give me 1 second. I think this works. No, I think this works. 1 second. This is a box from IKEA. I keep my Netrunner stuff on this on a shelf because I barely play Netrunner in person. So it usually, normally game binders I touch on a regular basis will be somewhere more accessible. Nanako the cat has come to see this. So I do stuff in binders. Very interestingly, we had this conversation a couple months ago talking about how people organize, because I think there's something really interesting here to talk about how people think about Netrunner, the way that they organize alphabetically in binders. You'll see in a moment. Yeah, you want to say hi? Okay. So I've been doing binders. I buy binders. These were from whatever Staples is called in Quebec. And I buy just like Ultra Pro sheets. This is the platinum version. You can get like 25 for 25 bucks. And then these are just like 3-ring binder stuff. Anna is in the box. So I have 3 binders, embarrassingly, because they're getting a bit too big. Yeah, bureau encore, merci. These are D-ring binders, which I think that's actually really important. You see how it kind of looks like a D? This just generally keeps the pages, especially when they get really thick, flatter. So you don't get that weird curve that happens a lot more when you have non-D-ring, this like O-ring binders. So look for that if you can. And I just organize everything by faction, by type, in release order, with a weird loop around when it comes to startup. And that was the big thing I had to organize when Parhelion came out. Because normally when new cards come out, I'll just add them to the last page. But I generally want to put startup at the front. So startup would go from this is Lu all the way to Essa, and then it goes from reverse order. So then the oldest card that's startup would be Null, all the way up to Nat. Oh no, I think there's one on the other side. Flexing that digital, yeah, I got some really nice alterates, all the way to Hashiko. And then I have all my, I wish I had divider pages, but I haven't gone into it. This is all the runner cards besides neutral, so Anarch stuff. And then the next page will be all the events. And again, firstly, all the way up to startup. And then once we hit this, it goes to system outage, which is the oldest event, all the way. And then we have all the hardware, so on and so forth. I don't separate consoles, although I know some people do. And then it goes programs. And again, it always does startup first and then in release order and all the way to resources. Then we go to criminal and so on and so forth. There's dividers between those. This one's foil. Sleeved or unsleeved in the binder? Unsleeved. And the way I do it is what some people would actually frown upon, but I haven't had issues, is that each pocket here actually has 6 cards in them. So for instance, there's 3 on each side and they just go in. Unsleeved, 6 cards. and I haven't had any problems with them. I've not seen any wear on the side. I don't know what these are like quote unquote rated for, but that's what I've done, and I haven't had any issues with it. So just do it as you want. Yeah, there's 6 cards in the pocket extend. Never had a problem with it. Never any damage. They don't like, I wouldn't want to put the binder upside down and shake it, but I don't think you want to do that no matter how many you put in there. So be that as it will. Any channel podcast you can recommend to learn about the lore of Netrunner? Lore exactly no. I know when I did review videos, we used to go into the lore of the cards, but more like the flavor of the cards, not like the Netrunner lore. If you want to know about Netrunner lore, they released Fantasy Flight Games released a book that's kind of hard to find called The Worlds of Android. That's, I think, the biggest thing. How does Matryoshka fit? Matryoshka will go into 2 slots. All of the consumer grades will go like 3 in one and 3 in the next one. Why do you think in release order? I think it's actually really interesting to do cards in release order because it allows you to like, I think it's easier for deck building. When I think of a card, I generally think of what cycle and how old it is so I can get to it fast enough. I think some people could just do an alphabetical because they just use this not so much for deck building, but for finding their cards to put it together. But I like going through it to think like, oh, remember this point in the game where like you see what people were concerned about. Like this section of hardware, criminal hardware from here to here is like trash. It's good to know that, but that's what I do. I have a binder for this. The court binder looks identical. It has all, not actually all of them. And then unfortunately I have this binder, which has all the Wayland cards in it. And then it goes to neutral, corp, and then neutral runner. The binders just weren't big enough to get them like only 2 binders because the thickness gets really unwieldy. And then at the back of this is also mini faction. But that's how I do it. I keep rotated cards in just like cheap boxes, like the BCW boxes somewhere in deep storage, and then use those if I'm doing draft or anything that needs it. But that's all I have. Just some binders, 3 binders, and I'll do it. I'm def organized differently. How do other people do it? I know people do with boxes and keep them in alphabetical order. I think that's actually really faster if you want to put away cards, but I love organizing cards. Let me be clear. Like I clearly take time to sit down and be like, okay, I'll take apart decks, unsleeve, put them in here. But like the process of keeping everything organized is like just as fun as the game for some reason. Other things I have in here. Unopened sleeves, that's good to know. Real talk, I bought a bunch of these like retired FFG sleeves and brought them with me to Worlds and then just failed to give them out to people. So next time you see me at an event, I'll probably have these. They were like $3, so I'm not generous. These came in, so I'll be running a GNK on the channel. I bought 2 of these, so we have a GNK waiting. This is from Kat. Huge shout out to Kat who donated to the channel. These are just startup prizes that Kat was collecting through the New York meta, and they're just like alt arts to give out to from collections. So if we do online events, we can give out. Whoa, this is really nice. Who made this? It's a turning wheel. Some of these might be no longer standard legal. Oh, Alexis Spicer 2019. I could have guessed from the art style. Yeah, these are all Alexis Spicers. So yeah, this is a collection of like arts that Kat was trading into, and they donated to the channel. So we'll get that in. Yeah, I've never seen that turning wheel before either, and I know most of Spicer's stuff. It's really good. I have a bunch of it. And then an unlimited version of Welcome to Wraithbox, which I promised to open to play draft with the guys from BC. But we never got to it. We'll get to it at some point. This is waiting for y'all. I actually won that at an event. I felt really proud. Let me catch out. I got mine in binders just by faction, then set, each set on pages, and alternates from that set on the back of the last pages on the set. Yeah, alternates are a really interesting thing. I'll generally only keep in the binder my preferred version of each of the art, unless it's identities where like you can keep multiple in a pocket because you don't hit the like max. Otherwise I will for some cards that like you use multiple copies of it, like spin doctors. There's basically a whole row of different options of spin doctors because you're often going to have 2 decks at the same time that need spin doctors. But for a lot of the art cards that you're not expecting to use that much, I'll just have my preferred alt art for that point in my moment in the binder, and then have all my other alt arts in a box somewhere where I keep alt arts. I also used to keep somewhere like a section of cards when I was playing more on paper of just like the most common Netrunner cards that you had excesses of. So there'd be a stack of like a dozen daily casts, a dozen sure gambles, Jackson Howards, whatever you had. You have stuff like that all around. So you're not always hunting down for your super rare staple cards. So it'd be like, here are my liberated counts. I've had worse as paper clips, all that sort of stuff. Those are a bit outdated references somewhat, but you know what I mean? Like I'd always have an extra copy of those just on hand somewhere. I found that to be useful. Let's see the Arkham binders. The Arkham binders are like the same. Those are actually easy to get. It's exact same, except this one says Mystic on the side with a label maker. That was fun. And it's just the same thing. It just goes IDs. Mystics are interesting because you put all their like arcane things on the one thing, and then once you get to the back, it's the same thing, sorted by, these are all the hex slots for XP, and they're by release date, but then you try and put together like versions of cards that kind of work together. So like all the Empower Selves, and that's it. And then it goes assets, allies, events, skills. And then you have 6 of those, 1 for each faction in neutral. It's the same. I copied my brother-in-law and I did the rogue binder just like alphabetical based on each of those sections. And it's easier to find cards, but also I hate it. So I'm going to undo that at some point. Now I have that plus my NSG cards in a few small boxes because I don't play in-person Netrunner. Yeah, that's the thing. Is like I don't actually play a lot of in-person Netrunner. So like these binders are kind of, they're not like as easy as my Arkham binders, which I touch every week or so because we play Arkham like twice a week. Something I need to fix. I heap sort my cards, have them sorted by type, cards grouped in penny sleeves. Then when I disassemble decks, they go to the top of the pile of the type, the more frequent used cards to be at the top of the piles. That makes a lot of sense. I think actually that's super, super useful. It's kind of like what you should be doing for your wardrobe is like anytime you use clothing, you put it on the left side. And then at the end of whatever your year, when you reevaluate your life, you can look at the right side. I want the boom alt art that mirrors the old ONR art. Boom alt art is the one alt art for FFG one that I thought I had 2, which is like how many booms you want. And I only have 1. And so now I can never play it because it's kind of a liability. Currently, I have a BCW box for each faction organized by card type and then alphabetically. Long term, I plan to get a library style cabinet with pull-out drawers that I have for my Ashes cards. Those like library drawers are kind of like always been something I wanted. And on Etsy, they'll make them for you. Like people have them that you can buy. But those seem really, really cool as much as I'm kind of a binders guy. Hey, Sangren, we were discussing Gateway. We were going through deck storage. We're going to go play that the deck list of the week from last week. Type cost XP. Wait, you sort by cost? What? Also, I missed the combo a bit ago, but I'm wondering if I should start moving to shorter videos because it has 50% more retention. But at the same time, I know people like long form stuff. Like, you guys sort by cost? What? In Arkham or like in Netrunner? Trove chest, Janktivist, you have no, that thing I would not lift. Like, it's going to fall apart if I lift it and it's in another room. So nice try. People don't, why would you want to sort by cost? That's not a useful thing to look up. Yeah, the Warrior deck, John, exactly. Oh, by the way, I guess we have to hit this. Do videos because it's what you like and let retention take care of itself. Bounty, I would like to agree with you, but it's like admittedly a bit naive. And it's not also so much about you. It's like, what would more people like? Like if my audience tells me it would be easier for me if you released 3 videos that were like half an hour in each, like I can't fight that. If that's what people want, like that's what I should be delivering. It's kind of on you to figure out also. Like you need to meet everyone halfway, right? Grab the truck. Let's get the dolly. I haven't used that enough because like I got the trove chest and then I'm waiting on whatever it's called, Unbreakable. So I haven't actually played any too many bones since. So I'll let you know how it goes. Faction type cost being sorting system. Why? Why do you're like, I'm building an Anarch deck. Let me find a 2 cost card. Like what? I'm offended by this and I don't know why. Did you get Riffle too? I did get Riffle, and I haven't played Riffle yet because of the aforementioned reason. I don't know what that does to retention stats. The thing is also like some people just won't engage. Like you'll get tricked into, it's like YouTube Shorts or like TikTok. You'll get tricked into watching a 45-second video. Will you get tricked into watching my 2 hour and 48 latest upload? Oh, probably not. I don't know. I do my sorting that way. Also, you Sengrin, you all are, you need help. It's good to be storing boxes. Oh man. That's the other thing I don't like about boxes, right? Like I'm trying to figure out how to sort Marvel Champion cards. And I have one of the boxes for Lord of the Rings and it's really good with all the like the nice Tesseract dividers and all that sort of stuff. Marvel Champions I think would work really well with that. It's hard to store those boxes in a place you can easily get them. They fit into Calyx shelves, but whatever. Is Andre changing video lengths? Not inherently, Chris. It's just like every video I upload is longer than the last. And like next month, they're going to be like 6 hours long. And it's going to be a problem. So I need to kind of, you know, pump the brakes. Sort by cost. Sorry, I lost it. Sort by cost to give yourself more time to back out of sleeping the gauntlet. Yeah, so then you never play endurance, right? That's what happens. You sort by cost. I actually didn't back Unbreakable. I almost definitely get at some point along with a couple other things, but I don't think I'll be a TMB completionist. Jankivist, I think that sentence is like really freeing and I support you on that fully. I really do. I think that's fantastic. I back that at a point in time where I was playing a lot of too many bones, and I think people have an issue understanding that they will feel different in the future about certain things, right? Like, anyways, at this point in time, I haven't played too many bones in a long time, and I'm still waiting on some financial investment, a pretty big financial investment I made literally a year ago to date. Will I regret it? Probably not. It's nice to get stuff in the mail. My fab is organized very identically to this really well too. Same with Lord of the Rings. For what it's been worth, I've been getting back into Netrunner, and your recent content has been super watchable. Hey, cheers to Box, especially with the deck breakdown at the start. Loving the startup content. Love to hear that. Startup has been fun, and I'm thinking a lot of people seem to be enjoying startup. One of the reasons to sort by cost in Netrunner is that lower cost cards have a really good correlation with being better. All right, you Sangren, your push the envelope bookmark deck. That was the cheapest bad card I could think of, and I don't think, well, one of them is better than the other. Cost naturally puts your frequently used cards together. You guys, does everyone not realize that Sure Gamble is one of the most expensive cards in the whole game? It's really expensive. 5 credits for a card is a lot of money. Andre training for his future streamathon. Sorts by cost since you only build Ob. Yeah, Lucas, that's exactly why Jeff does it. The reason why he sorts by cost is for Ob. 100%. There's no other way around it. He just hasn't realized yet. All right, Doomrat has a deck. This one's cool. The called out. Yeah. Totally. So we band together and demand Andre stream sorting the collection by Trash or Busto. Oh man, you could do it. Sangren just released like the Trash or Busto collated stats you can pull, so you can actually know which cards you should put at the back. Sort by influence would make more sense than by cost. I think all of these are bad systems besides sort by type. And then by release date. Anyways, this worries me too. Because as someone who's definitely trying to put together a Netrunner only Connect show, understanding that people do not care about the sanctity of a release order is going to make this a very difficult trivia show for everybody besides me. So buckle up. All right, PE assets. Faction type alphabetical, so easy. That's like 66% correct. So yeah, Sax, you're doing great. That's really good. Should rubber band the same factions together? Yikes. Okay, all right, let's go. Reminding me I gotta try and figure out this Python setup later. You'll get it. Let me know how it goes. I think you know what I'm just joking. No, I don't think you are. Okay, this is the Jinteki asset-based deck. It is really cool because it's kind of tricky to play around. Yeah, we're trying to get some burst kills because most of our assets will hurt someone. Most of the assets will hurt people. We have wall to walls, which this is not urban renewal. This is actually called out in the deck list being like 6 influence. What are you doing? But it's a reasonably good card. It gives you, it has a good trash cost to ratio to res cost. All the things that it can do, and mind you, we're only going to be able to pick one of these consistently because we're probably going to have other res assets. It's not the worst card. To me, it seems like the most dubious inclusion to the deck. I think in the write-up or in the comments, people were calling out things like hostile infrastructure, which I think the response for Doomrat is like, pay 5 credits for a single card. What is this, Sure Gamble? Based off the sorting algorithm. So I think that can be quite difficult, and you don't have the economy for it, which is kind of nice. And then you have that sort of economy lock. Also, should one Nassix be a pad campaign? I'd reckon, yeah, maybe. It's unique, so it's unlikely for you to have 2 of these on the table, but this does have an ability that's actually kind of can do something with subliminal messaging and like all the other stuff. Subliminal messaging is strange, if you ask me. I'm not sure why this is in the list. Maybe so we can feed it to Moonpool. It's probably called out in the write-up, but I only read this like 2 weeks ago at this point. Otherwise, we have War-Eye Trackers, which is like kind of a mean card. If any deck is showing up, it's showing up in the Jinteki type prison deck, which is not exactly this deck, but this card forces you to trash things and attacks you on the economy angle, which is not something that you're always expecting with Jinteki, which is kind of cool, and it does protect itself. And then we have just the cheapest, lowest ice we can play. Also, chat, I just had my first committee meeting for my PhD, and the feedback was a little harsh. Oh, looking forward to some wholesome card games. Yo, Leonard, sorry to hear that. I hope it's okay. I'm not sure how far along in that you are. I know my sister got some like pretty heavy feedback on her thesis, and then she had just clarified with one of the people commenting on it, and they're like, oh yeah, but if you just do this, it fixes all of that. So hoping for something simple. Sort by type alphabetically, except agendas, which are sorted alphabetically by faction. So excited for this deck. Saw it twice on the other side of the table as CO. Oh, no way. Sort by trash cost. Subliminal probably just puts on some pressure to run. Yeah, but you have to run. Like, there's no way you're not running. There's Bladderworts on the table. Like, that's the thing I don't get. It's a deck that's really easy to run. Release order sorting. Release ordering sorting is so cool because it allows you to understand the history of the game. Now, the one thing that I would want to try with this deck, and this is because I read a review and there was not an angle that I actually really understood that well, but Nana Civic is kind of a cool card. Obviously, it's a powerful card, but Nana Civic as like an asset trap or an upgrade trap, more accurately, is kind of sick Because the idea is if there's a face down ice in archives, this just becomes oh, you ran this remote server, you're taking 3 net damage, assuming you're playing Bathynomus. And you might be thinking, Andre, that's a bit convoluted, and you're not wrong. But admittedly, this deck actually has tech for it. The fact that we have 3 Moonpool means at instant speed, we can put face down cards into archives, which means if they run our remote server, we can res Moonpool, throw out a Bathynomus, which we have to play, and then res the Nana Civic, which is probably a game-winning line that people are not playing around. You're not expecting to run the remote server, especially that has an upgrade in it, and take 3 net damage unconditionally, barring if there's a snare in it, which, like, I don't know. I'm not a snare remote guy, but you be you. Why are you discarding ice in this deck? Because you can at instant speed. And only if you need to, right? Like, you only do it if someone's running into the Nana Civic, but you can just feed them cards. If any deck is playing assets and is playing Moonpool and could consider Nana Civic, I think this is something that's worth looking into. Is it consistent? I don't know. Testing will tell, but I do think it's interesting. I think it's kind of interesting. I literally put wall to wall and hostile my P deck today, thinking I was being so sneaky. Brennan, it's good. That archetype you see in startup a fair bit in Near Earth Hub. I do sets in release order then by type. It's a bit annoying because I will never memorize which sets certain cards in. So people wrecking alphabetical order are starting to win me over. Don't do it. It's so annoying. When you do alphabetical order and then null signals like, here's 65 cards, and you're like, thank you, I'll buy them. And you're so excited. And then you have to sit down and move every single card in your binder. I just talked about how I like that process, but like, that's really hard. Yeah, NRDB does sub by order. You just open this on your computer or a tablet. That's how I do it. See, I don't have binders. I have boxes. You're one of those people. Happened to be playing Apex against this, which helped a lot. Yeah. I don't know if you have economy to trash things, but at least you won't die, or you'll die really slowly. Import. Oh, that doesn't work, does it? Does that work anymore? PE assets. Standard. Oh, not used to that. Jinteki personal evolution. Mind you, our agendas hurt them. We haven't talked about our genesis, our agenesises, but we can always, obviously, we're Genesis Obokata. We're 3 blood in the water, which doesn't add damage. So in theory, if they're on low hand size, this is an alternate win condition. And then we have all this other stuff with they don't run the appropriate thing. Things I'm worried about, economy, things I'm worried about losing on centrals, but yeah. The nude card issue is the best argument for release order. It makes it a lot easier to add stuff. It is a lot easier to add stuff. My best part, because I put my startup stuff before my standard stuff, is when like Anarch loses 3 programs to rotation and then they print 3 new programs. It's such an easy process. If there's any number that doesn't line up 1-to-1, yeah, it's not the easiest, please. Not sure if Diogenes is here tonight, but I had a great game against him on stream where he was on Apex against a kill op. Oh, no, wait, was that yesterday? I think Diogenes posted an Apex list recently. My Apex is still a little bad. Should have had Aesops. Yeah, it's a bit of work to get Aesops, but it's probably worth doing. I just found some loose cards. That's bad. 1 second. Okay. It was yesterday. Heartbeat almost wrecked me. Yeah, Heartbeat's a hard one to deal with. At least War Rate Tracker gets a bit annoying. I feel like Apex still, like, as nice as the idea is, you know, oh, I'm going to install Heartbeat, even like if you're playing Anarch and you're playing, what's his face? Ben-Har. I feel like you just can't install enough cards on the table for it to be like a resilient thing. Loose cards in Aniko sounds risky. She is looking around because I left the other box that was on top of this box on the bed and it is closed. Well, she's trying to figure out what's in there. Hurts my soul to think about having to do set by set. What do you mean, rotation? Someone reminded me best defense is text, which 3x reboot it would have been. Oh, reboot. Yeah, reboot's the best way to survive. That's for sure. Were they tagged? I reckon Apex was tagged. Yeah, okay. Cool. It's just rough because my mentor like never gives negative feedback. That's for another stream. Ah, beans. Yeah, that's rough. This is the one of the only 3 NBN IDs that exist. You want me to play NBN? Don't know about Nanico, but none of my cats ever bothered to card. They did steal some of the old FFG cardboard credit tokens though. Nanico's actually like very thankfully really good around board games. Only if she's very, very close to like a time where she believes she should be fed, which is a pretty wide margin. Will she interact with like board or card games? We generally play card games also a lot of times at my sister and her husband's down the street, and they have a cat, Humphrey, who's lovely, but he just doesn't give just no boundaries. Like, oh, we're hanging out, we're all hanging out together, and we'll just like sit down in the middle of everything. It's a bit of a curse. We call him the Arkham Horror when we play Arkham Horror. It's hard to get around that. But yeah, Nanako is actually pretty great. This deck also, for what it's worth, can probably just be played in startup. I think the worst part you lose is Obokata, but I don't think you lose that much else, right? Like the ice is all reasonable. Bladder Invention, Poonpool, Nasex doesn't have to be Nasex. Rashida's obviously really good, but you'll find a way. Yeah, this is largely a legal deck, and you have 6 more influence to work with, so do whatever you want. I think that's cool. The Arcat Horror. What have you been playing in Arkham Horror recently? I haven't been playing Arkham Horror in the longest time that I haven't played Arkham Horror in a while. So we just beat, or I have gone through 3 times through the Scarlet Keys. And then my regular weekly group, we had to take a break for a couple weeks because someone was traveling. And then we also took a break and we did a whole Sinister Motives campaign in Marvel Champions with my brother-in-law. So I actually haven't played Arkham in probably the longest time in a long time. I'm excited to get back into it. I built like the Singleton Underworld, whatever support deck for Tony, which is going to be my next thing for another bout at Scarlet Keys. Thanks, you too. And Scarlet Keys is something I really wanted to talk about. And I had like a lot of, kind of feverish points that I wanted to communicate at some point on a stream. But unfortunately, it's been weeks since I played Scarlet Keys, and now I am not as confident about what I'm thinking about. But it's something really interesting to talk about because Scarlet Keys is a pretty divisive piece of Arkham Horror. Shooting Tony, yeah. Got to pick up his. I always say that Tony's Corey is his son that he forgets to pick up from school. I don't think anyone thinks it's as funny as I do. All right, that's Rashida. We probably want to protect it, but Warrior Tracker, for what it's worth, doesn't really do anything on turn 1. So we'll just do the stuff that maybe wins. I don't know. Did you ever end up giving your thoughts? No, John, we haven't done it yet, but it's something that now with 3 plays, like I have a lot of thoughts. I think we're going to need a 4th play because there's 1 or 2 scenarios that I haven't played yet. So I want to kind of see the whole gamut. I've seen most of the endings. Well, sorry, I don't want to spoil anymore, but I've seen a couple endings. No spoilers. I'm a TSK, too much reading, not enough playing. I do think the reading thing is a very obvious issue, especially on replays. And especially where the reading comes in, it comes in at really awkward spots. Fermenter's down, they access the card, they trash a Reaper. We get a Rashida, they flipped. We're going to res everything. Do we want to put credits on this? I don't think we're in a rush to do it. They get a good Fermenter. Okay, cool. So we have Tithe Sting. I don't think we mind what happens to the Sting here. I think protecting this is actually probably kind of important. This is going to be a bit difficult to play out. TSK has been my favorite campaign so far. That's really cool. IXWT, why do you say that? The story, the setting, I think the player cards are bangers. I think the player cards are really, really good. But I don't think it's in my top even half of campaigns. I'm going to protect this. It's kind of a waste of a Warroid, but like this seems really important. I think Concealed is not a fun mechanic. I just don't think it's fun. I think it hinges on it very heavily, but I don't think people enjoy it. Like Concealed is not enjoyable. It feels like an actual campaign almost to me. I feel like, I don't know. I don't know if I've had that issue. 5 cards in hand, MK Ultra in the bin. If we score the Sting out, it means them stealing them get a bit worse. I think we can afford to do that. Otherwise, we can put stuff on the table. Worried is like, okay. They're only on 2 credits. I feel like we could draw once and install 2 cards, and that's probably pretty good. Now, we have to watch out. The Bladder Word doesn't actually do anything until we like get our credits below 4. Or 4 or less, right? I also like the spins on older scenarios. Some spoilers, but remixes of Echoes of the Past Wages of Sins. Almost the opposites. I've gotcha. It's like Swarming. I don't have TSK because I haven't finished Innsmouth. Oh, that's really good into Warroid Tracker. They're doing this with a potential star. What's it called on the table? Obokata, Vinch, and Reaper. Obokata, if they steal it, like they can't. They just have to trash it. You can't really afford to steal an Obokata unless they have Biped Horses or, sorry, Steel Skins in hand. They trash the Obokata, okay. Concealed Scale's really bad at a high player count. At 2, it's not even a mechanic. I don't know. I don't think it's a fun mechanic. Why isn't Moonpool installed? We're in no rush to install it. Why would we install it? It doesn't do anything. Can we get below the credit threshold to do damage? So if we res this, we're definitely going to res this. So can we get down to, if you have 4 or less, so we have to get to 3, right? So if we res the Warroid Tracker, would be on 5. So I don't think we can do it. Warrior works against Stargate. Yep, it does. It definitely works against Stargate. I think we're definitely going to get that on there. And Moonpool now on the table actually does deal with the Stargate, right? Yeah, as long as it's face down. Oh, it's not face down, so no, it doesn't work. It turns on Bladderwort. Yeah, but then we have to res it for no reason. It's okay, but I don't think it's better than any of these options. So we're going to be drawing into a Keeling and then a Reaper function. If we draw, they're going to break through our lock. So I think all we have to do is like Tithe and then Warrior on R&D, and that solves our issue. Order here, not that important. We could get big money with the Nastics. I don't think we want to do it. I think we're going to draw a card. Okay. So we only need to protect R&D. They need to deal with the Keeling and the Reaper. So we're going to do triple install, I think. So we'll get this on R&D. I guess we'll get this on R&D. This sets better up for the Obokata. They know that we have the Keeling in hand. 4 credits seems like a lot. Yeah, maybe we'll do that. Looking up concealed. Yeah, I think my biggest problem with TSK is how bad the quality control seems to be. Like from our first playthrough through it, like there's so many like very obvious issues, unfortunately, with the game. Like there's some rules that just don't make sense. There's some rules that are just like very poorly explained. Like the base mechanic of concealed leaves so many edge cases open that like it is near unplayable. Like just understanding how certain cards interact, it's a guess. It's straight up a guess. Let alone there's just constantly, like every scenario we played into, there was like a bad sentence here or missing a sentence here or missing some clarification text that's super integral that actually makes things really difficult. Yeah, Dealings in the Dark, we had to play like 4 times in a row. Dealings in the Dark is just the scaling on it is absolutely buck wild, potentially. Moonpools are worth installing to duck under Bladderwort, though. I wonder how much is worth it just getting underneath it. You're probably right. So we can't duck it right now. They're just giving a credit turn. That seems fine. We could drop down to 6. That's it. Okay. Order. We want cards. Okay. Yeah, okay. I'm going to duck. I like duck. Let's go. Have they updated the FAQ? No. And they should have updated the FAQ basically on day 1. Like it needed a day 1 patch. Like that. I don't know. I really don't like when quality control is that rough on a product you spend money on. Could you have ducked it by paying into the Nastics? Potentially. Actually, maybe potentially. I just don't know if it's that important to do 1 net damage now, this turn. Maybe, because then we would unlock the Warrior Tracker server. So here we could actually get the Regenesis out of our hand. What is the text on this? Remove this asset, trash up to 2 cards from HQ, reveal up to 2 face down. For each revealed, you may place an agenda. Is that worth doing? I don't think so. I think we can let them have the 50-50 here. That's fine. It doesn't net damage. There's a particular mechanic that was described in a scenario and then was used without reference to the rules. There's a bunch of mechanics that show up and have no rules explanations. There's specifically one that's like meant to be thematic and mysterious because it doesn't have any rules explanation. It comes out of nowhere. And I think that's really cool flavor, but there's a lot of people that's going to rub them really, really the wrong way. Okay, now we have too much money. Can we duck this? I don't know if we're playing this well. Okay, we can definitely duck this. What's it going to cost us? Everything. So we'll do the Bladderwort. All right. Got a Botulus. They cracked their Botulus. I didn't even realize. Here we can probably draw a card. No, we're going to get Rashida. Let's get money. Money is exactly what we don't want. Reaper function puts them down to potentially 2 cards. We haven't seen a single Steel Skin Scarring. I'm playing this really poorly. Oh, we forgot to res this. Excuse me. Fuck. Okay, whatever. We missed it. What is the runner afraid of running here? Sting? Or are you getting wide just to make them run? I want to get them wide so we can set up multiple like Keelings and like Reapers on the table. Obviously, like this was... It's embarrassing. This was bad. Couldn't you have killed him with Reaper Bladderwort Sting? No. This would have dropped them to 2 cards. This would have done 2 damage. So they would have gone to 0 cards in hand, but it's like very, very likely they have a Steel Skin in hand. Definitely could have used Nastic to get some extra damage in. Did we not get the Bladderwort? I don't think we got extra damage in. Maybe a turn ago we did, but our Bladderwort fired that turn. You had lethal? Wait, how? Concealed sounds thematically interesting, but also a pain. It's less interesting than it sounds. Yeah, we got a bladder damage that turn. So they were on 4 cards in hand. So like this does 2, this does 2, and so they would be alive. Also assuming there has to be a Steel Skin there. They've gone through like 20 cards. All right, so they hit Gachapon to botch as a diviner. There is one steel skin in there, and they'll remove 2 from the game. Yeah, I don't know if we could have got lethal there. Their economy is not very good, and they trashed this. It's a bit worse. All right, they're through. Rashida's coming down. That's on us. Yeah, we made a misplay there. Oh yeah, you missed the Bladder Word hit fire. Yeah, we got the Bladder Word to work. So they have 3 cards in hand, 4 cards in hand now. Again, we haven't seen any steel skins. They shuffled, we know 1s in the 27 cards of their stack. They could have drawn it there. And then they flipped again. So this is a Moon Pool, which is useless. Can we duck? Yeah, we can. So we'll do the Bladder Word first. We hit a Pinhole. That's actually kind of nice because it plays around Keeling. And I think we want to get Keeling on top of the Nasex, right? Like Keeling on top of War 8 is kind of the best we got. We don't have Rashida here. So we want to just draw a card. Sick. That's actually kind of sick. The problem here is like, where do we put the Vientiane? We could probably put it behind the Tithe, which forces out the most issues. We have no way to fast advance here. Like we have to commit to this, but 2 Bladder Words on the table is kind of what we want. So I think we put a Bladder Word here and then her in their remote server and hope that we just draw Peace Ice. I think that's their best play. I don't know. It's hard. Like the Diviner, we can maybe purge. It doesn't really do anything because it'll always have 1 counter. We don't have a virus. All right, we got to focus a bit better. But yeah, we have to remember you can always res Keeling at the end of their turn before they discard if they're on 5 cards in hand. So it does like guaranteed damage. It also will duck us to Bladder Word, and we can get 2 Bladder Words. So we can put them on 2 cards in hand. Again, assuming Steel Skin. I think you overwrite the Sting. I think overwriting the Sting was probably the play. It's only behind a Tithe, but they have to respect it. But yeah, I'm just hoping to top deck an Ice. We'll draw one with the wall to wall. And I think there's like 7 Ice in the deck. Maybe we'll see it. What is this? Another Bladder Word. They can trash it. At least it keeps their money down. They probably will trash it. Oh, sorry. I want to res that on the end of your turn. Could you kindly... Okay, they discarded cast. So they're on 1 credit, so now we have to protect this. Thanks. Wall to wall in the wide deck, it's like, it's good enough. It's 1 to 3. It gets us a card a turn or a credit. Like it does exactly what we want. We have to get a Spin Doctor now to get back our threats. But we need Ice here. Okay, that might do it. It's unique for what it's worth. Do we want to Ice up the Spin Doctor? I think no. Give us an Ice. Shit. Nasex is also unique. This is where the Nasex pad campaign argument can come up. Let's draw for an Ice. A Warrior Tracker, though, is pretty good. Admittedly, they might think it's a Hokusai. But now our economy is in a bad spot. Killing a Warrior, though, is tough to handle for sure. It doesn't actually really matter now, right? Like, if they lose the Stargate, it doesn't change anything. If anything, they could be worried that this is a Hokusai. But the problem more so here is that they just don't have economy. Well, Moshing is good. But they need Ford for this, and again, this will just fire, but it doesn't really matter what it hits. They have to trash this. They'll take a net damage to trash it. Dirty Laundry, though. Okay. This goes HQ. We could always crack this Blood in the Water to, like, get an advancement on the Sting. I think we do. I think we do. Trash up to 2 cards from HQ. I don't think we need to trash those. Oh, we have to remember there's an Obokata in there. The face down cards? Okay. So we'll advance this. Whatever. They have 6 credits. If they trash all their assets, they just make our wall-to-wall more powerful. Yeah, the big thing here is Steel Skin Scarring we have to play around. And for what it's worth, like, they might actually go to low hand size here, and we could have done something cute with the Blood in the Water. All right, so we're going to res this. It's not a great res. It puts us down to 1 credit. But we basically take down their Stargate. I don't actually know if that's worth it. This might not be worth the res. This is a Warrior Tracker. It's Trace 4. When they ever trash a card in or protecting the server, which they'll probably do here. While they do have a link, it doesn't really matter. And then we just trash the Stargate, which, like, fine. They weren't going to use the Stargate anytime soon. But they need to trash Keeling. They trashed the Warroid? What? They trashed the Warroid and then left the game. Huh? There's no way the Warraid was the right trash there, right? Maybe they DC'd. I don't know. Yeah, I'm assuming that's a misclick. There's no way that you trash the Warraid on top of the Keeling. When this like is a win condition, the Warraid is just like whatever. I have no installed cards. I wonder if that was such a bad misclick. They quit. Trash the Warraid refuses to elaborate. Oh, they're back. Hey. Yeah, no, I DC all the time. No, it's all good. I lose connection so consistently when playing Jinteki.net in the afternoon, but only the afternoon. It's not that bad in the evening. During the afternoon, it's so bad for me. Warraid too strong. Yeah, I don't know how they left this. Like, this is our win con. Warraid's just got like a speed bump. So they're in 3 cards in hand. Our economy is obviously not great. I think we need the money here. The thing is, like, Spin Doctor, before we draw here, we should, if we were going to draw, we need to put Bladderworts back into the deck or Reaper functions. Like, that's how we win. I think we can do that. Okay, that worked. So obviously we can score this out. It'll do 2 damage, dropping him to 1 card. I was hoping to draw Ice there. Hokusai is like the next best thing. And then we have this on the table as well. That's actually really good. I don't think there's any point not to put this in this server. Credit? We're going to need 3 to res both of these. Don't they have to trash 2 of the cards? Stargate and Botches should have been both gone. Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. Hey, I think you had to trash 2 there. I forgot they had the Botulus. Yeah, that's huge. Yeah, huge, huge, huge. I thought they didn't have 2 cards. You always forget about this one on this side of the table. I think they might have as well. Yeah, me too. Thanks. Cool, yeah, that opens that up. That's sick. Yeah. I mean, unless there's a better plan to trash it next turn, in which case not having to deal with it, or if they think you have a Keeling in hand. No, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think there's a real reason. Like, if you have no board state, it doesn't matter anymore. So we hit a Paladin Puemlo again. They must have a Steel Skin in hand. But, like, there's a chance that if this Bladderwort misses a 50-50 on a Steel Skin. They played a Steel Skin. Whoa. So they just missed it in hand. And there's a Gachapon. So they have 3 cards in hand. We res this. It takes 1 card out of hand. So if we top deck a Blood in the Water, we win. If they don't have a Steel Skin in hand, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll do the Bladderwort first, so we can't mess it up. We hit a second Steel Skin. Okay, so they had a second Steel Skin in hand. If they didn't have a Steel Skin here, I think we had a chance to top deck to win. So 2 Steel Skins are out. Here we want to draw, I think, because we want it. Our money is like fine with the Bladderwort. It's more so that we need to find a Spin Doctor or Spin Doctor. Okay. Kakarembo? It's also their choice, not yours. On Warraid? Yeah, it's their choice. Yeah, it's their choice, which makes sense. Okay, so getting this on top of here is okay. We can probably draw once. Okay. So I think we put this on server 12 because I don't think they check it. And I think we put this in a new remote server, which means it doesn't really work because we'd have to top deck something. Here they have a Dream Net, but they actually are 1 credit short of installing it off of the Gachapon. Gachapon reduces the cost by 2. If they had 1 credit, getting down to Dream Net's like one of the best things they can do against this deck. So that's actually a full whiff, which just takes 2 cards out of their deck. Maybe that's like, you know, or 3 cards out of their deck. Maybe that's deck thinning. That's what they want. But just click for 4 credits makes sense. So we have to figure out what to do here. Again, the Regenesis doesn't do anything. Well, it's a 3/1 that does the damage. That's cute. Our stings are getting better and better. So here we'll do the Bladderwort first. We hit a Cleaver. Here we need to draw. That's really good. Oh, hey, we got the Subliminal back. That's sick too. Try scoring. You might get 7 points to friend. I think we're going to score. I just don't want to score the Regenesis. And I also want to like set up stuff on the table. So we need to get the spin on the table. And there's a chance like next turn we can use the spin to draw, get an Obokata, throw it into the bin with the Moonpool, and then score from there. So like this is also really important because we have a Regenesis on the table. So do a new remote. And then what else do we want to protect? I think we want to protect the Bladderwort. It's also something we can duck. I think clicking for credits like actually okay because we have at least 5 worth of ducking. Are we running resets? No, I don't think so. Yeah, so Regenesis is really cool. It allows us to add an agenda from our area, but it has to be a face down agenda and no cards can be added to archives, which means if we're going to moonpool, we have to moonpool on the runner's turn and get an agenda into archives and leave it there. So it's possible, but it's yeah, it's unlikely. We just have to like spin doctor, draw 2 and hit Nobukata. Keep in the breakers, they have paperclip, they have MK Ultra. Pinhole threading is nice. Now, this actually doesn't play around Hokusai. We could consider running resing the Spin Doctor here. There's no way they trash the Spin Doctor. I think they'd trash the Bladderweight. Yeah. Pinhole threading. Yeah, it's Bladderweight. That tracks. Okay, they're on no credits. That's fine. But they stymied damage. No scoring, only installing. All right, let's go for it. Huh. I think we do it. I think it's really good. So we're going to do this on their turn. Oh, whoops. Sorry. I goofed that. All right, let's try that again. So res this. I hit no further action when there's definitely further action. So we'll get that in the bin. So reveal 2. I'm surprised it doesn't open archives. You can score both. Yes. No. No? Can we? Because there's only one face down agenda. So we want to score the blood in the water. So I think we want to shuffle back the sting to get an advancement. We could do both of these to score that, but I don't want to score a 1-point Regenesis. So I'm going to do this and put the advancement here. I think that's all we're going to do. Okay. Draw a card. Yeah. Sick. I think you want Blood in the Water in hand. There's a chance. Yeah, maybe there's a chance that's our kill piece, but like we don't have a lot of ways to threaten damage on the board anymore. All right, so we hit just moshing, and then we'll put this in server 8. Okay. Wait, why didn't that not work? Wait. Oh. So I technically fired my stuff subliminal. I thought it was Oh my god, subliminal. I should have just played that last click. Imagine I played that last click. Oh, that's so bad. I thought I did that. I thought I fired Moon on my turn. Oh, shit. Yeah, so Subliminal entered our archives. I just played it because I wanted to. But yeah, we goofed real bad. Can I fix that? Technically, information was gained. So, like, shouldn't warrant a rollback. Because we saw the moshing, but, like, it's subliminal. Ah! So I played my subliminal before scoring out. So something entered archives. I could have played it click 3, no difference. But I did see what damage you took. So like technically I gained info. I don't know. Spill message would let me redo my turn. Yeah, for the 3rd time. They technically gained info, but it's not like workable info. It's not like I wasn't gonna play subliminal. So whatever. I don't know. Whatever their opponent thinks is how it's gonna play. I'm not gonna have hard feelings. Oh, thanks. Huge. Thanks. How do I add to score area? Can you add? Yeah. Oh, sick. We're just gonna. Thanks. Oh, but I might hit a different damage. I might hit different damage. Let me just fix this the other way. How do you add a card to the score area? Is there a setting for that? How to use commands? What are the commands? Can you just score an agenda? Summon Lady Liberty? There's no way. DRDA? What's DRDA? Oh, drag. There's no way that'll work. No, you can't drag Discoria. Ugh. Is score a thing? I don't think you'd want to score this because it's going to trigger your ID. Yeah, I don't want to just score it because it's going to fire the ID for sure. Like, we don't want to score it. Plus points in RFG? Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, no, they were worried it was an avocado, which obviously like is a fair bit better for them. I just roll back the turn and they can swap hand. What do you mean swap hand? Oh, like just throw their hand. How do you swap hand? I don't know how to fix that. They're running here. So here's a question. Like we can let them steal an Obokata. They can only have one more steel skin scarring. It puts them on 4 points. Or we can obviously shuffle back with the Spin Doctor to get the Obokata back into R&D. If they steal 4 points here, like we have Reaper function on the table, but we don't have like, that problem is the blood in the water is the way that we kill from here. So interesting. Because this was a 5 steel. At this point, they probably have their last steel skin scarring. I don't think we have to. We'll get that back into the deck. What else do we want to get back in the deck? Probably Bladderwort. Vienshin is interesting. Bladderwort's good though. I'm not actually sure. Reaper Sting is a kill, maybe? Oh, I forgot we had a Sting on the table. Yeah, if we did Reaper to kill, that might be a kill. I think you're right. I think there's a chance if I knew the deck better, we might be brave enough to let them steal the Obokata. I'm assuming they'd go up to 3 cards in hand because of Steel Skin. And if they're on 3 cards in the hand, if they do draw, the most we can do is some damage. We might actually let the Sting cook for a minute, just because if they steal stings, it gets better. Like, we're okay feeding them stings. Like, if we have a sting, we'll just put it into the Hokusai. Swap the cards, but the other thing they could do is put the other card on top of the stack and then use slash draw and after. Wait, this is not Apocalypse, is it? Is this an Apocalypse? No. Honestly, it could be. We've seen very little influence. This might be an Apocalypse. Streamer so salty with TSK, we big goofs. Pinhole. Wait, is this APOC? Yeah, it is. 1, 2, 3, 4. We've only seen 4 influence. Oh, fudge. That can't be good. Okay. No, they're credit short. It can't be APOC, right? No, they're credit short. This is just central pressure. No, they need 1 more credit for that. I was scared, but we haven't seen influence. I wouldn't be surprised if they're on APOC. They're just trying to figure out what's on the table. I feel like if we think they're APOC, we should just Reaper them. I think we can just Reaper them. I'm scared of APOC. We haven't seen influence. I'm going to do it. I don't care. Draw 1. Oh. We've seen no influence. Boomerangs. What is this? Check RFG info. Sorry. Would need laundry to land APOC there. Yeah, they need the laundry there. All right, we hit the last steel skin, so that's good. So unfortunately, we have blood in the water in a hand, but we do have Moonpool. So not the best. What else do we have? We have a Nasix credit. We drew 1. Okay, so we have all these cards in hand and like no credits. So they need a dirty laundry here. That's for sure. We can get another. That's honestly fine. That's probably fine. We can just score this. I think we do. This deck doesn't have snare, huh? Turbine Begalter. Okay, so they're not APOC. They just have breakers. It's nice to hit the Begalter after they see the Tithe, but not that they're going to install it. But now they only have 8 more hit points. These Obokatas are 5 apiece. Here they could hit an Obokata. They hit a Nasix. We got lucky. Obviously, the blood in the water is a problem. But now we're just grinding them. They can't steal it. We don't win, but like, we're getting close. I think we'll get the money here. I don't want to draw. Okay, they have 2 cards left, and the Obokatas are like, you can't steal them. I'm gonna have to work for it. I'll be honest. I thought you were gonna APOC me. So I just started tossing damage. Saw like no influence. Then hit the K2 CP and Begalter. I don't know how to spell Galter. It's something like that, I reckon. All right, well, getting this on the table actually doesn't matter. It's technically safer behind a peace ice. It's safer even on the Hokusai. Yeah, technically on the Hokusai. We just need damage. We don't need to care where the damage came from. Yeah, so just throwing damage seemed okay. It's not a top tier Hoshiko by any means. Yeah, I don't know. Frank Reynolds' voice. So anyways, started blasting. I do like that clip. How's it going, by the way? All right, so now being flipped is just a liability because they don't have cards anymore. We'll gain a credit. I don't want to draw that much. Actually, so technically if we top deck our last Blend the Water, it's like totally scoreable. That's really good too. Subliminal is great. Second Subliminal is like fine. So we'll get this behind server 4. If we put this on server 4, they literally just can't run. I'll play this first. We'll put this on server 4. It can't run. And then this is a pretty safe situation. Shouldn't we just install Oboe? I don't think we're in a rush to install Oboe. I totally forgot we're in 6 agenda points. Yeah, we probably should have installed Oboe. We looked like we were on 4, but it's not that they... I mean, can they win with only 2 cards left? Yes, they can. Because the last Jinteki damage actually fires after they've stolen. So if they steal, they would have to steal both the one Regenesis. No, sorry, they have to steal both Blood in the Waters. That's the only way they win. Stack 2, grip 1, score Oboe whenever you like. Yeah, we're going to put it on the table. We just don't have the credits. I was just hoping to grind them out with this, but yeah, I don't think we need to. We can just do the Oboe. But there's technically a small line. No scoring on the insta. Yeah, no, it's technically possible for them to win. It is technically possible. As soon as we hit 1 Bladderwort trigger, they're no longer able to win. Look at our sweet skateboard trick. Yeah, look, all the cards, they gone. I forgot I have MK. Yeah, you do. They have MK Ultra in the bin since forever. So they have access to all their breakers. The thing is, like, Breaking Tithe is, 5 credits. But we just res this. We don't have to res the Keeling. Order doesn't exactly matter. We'll just gain a credit. Okay. New remote. Does it have to be new remote? No, on Hokuside's fine. Server 8. That. Advance. All right, that should be it. They only can steal. No, technically they could still win, right? They just steal 2 Blood in the Waters. That's technically game point. So they have to hit 2 Blood in the Waters here. If they steal a Sting or they axe as a Sting, they lose. No, we're fine. Okay, now we win. GG. We did not play any of the good optimal lines to get a kill, but we just ground. And like, I think that works. Hey, cheers. Thanks. You too. But you kind of see what this does. You get stuff on the table that's hard to deal with. Again, just about every card we play has a higher trash cost than res cost. I think we did a really obvious bad job at getting us to Bladderwort early, and getting that Bladderwort lock is pretty important. I think trashing the Warrior and not the Keeling was obviously strange. It didn't exactly matter. They ended up trashing 2 of their cards though. That's going to happen no matter what. But from there, we just keep pushing on the table. Who says mill isn't viable in Netrunner? Yo, you've got to play Egg Infusion. You can mill out anyone. We'll do this again, and we'll try and focus a bit more. I think we can do better. Format standard singleton. Well, there's a button for that. Sick. I reckon that's not for draft. That's more for what's it called? The 2 IDs from Parhelion. Oh, we doing good on time. Yeah, so this is also the sort of board, like our opponent put down an early Stargate and you saw how potentially not good that was for them. Like if our whole game plan, and they couldn't tell what deck it was. So like we might have just been like a trap deck, and if we're just a generic trap deck, like Mushin no Shin type trap deck. Yeah, Stargate's really good because you're expecting to trash things like Urtica and snares and stuff like that. Obviously you don't want to interact with those other ways. But if it's all about keeping your economy up and keeping the board down while drawing at the same time, like in theory, DreamNet Hoshiko can do it. And I think there's 1 credit few. They were too few in hitting their DreamNet. And admittedly, that has a huge impact on the game, barring the fact that they were basically only had 9 cards left at that time. So yeah. There's a video explaining why grinder decks aren't fun. I don't think I've ever made that video. Whoa, cool. Alice. Here's where we expect to have, we want our, what's it called? Our Bathonimus. Thanks, you too. I expect Alice modernly to be on Sabotage. I think Alice is probably one of the best non-SS sabotage decks just because her ability works really well with it. And we're going to have to make sure that we have stuff for archives. Immediately throwing out traps into archives, like forcing Alice to steal stings at the wrong time, is potentially quite cool. Is this hand good? I don't know. We definitely want an ice on archives. How many ice do we have in the list? It can't be that many. 8. So 8 and 49. So we're expecting we can mulligan into 1 ice. Yeah, Tithe is good enough. Just realized the avatar is Mental Gin. That brings me back. I don't know what Mental Gin is. In your most wanted video where you did the history. Oh, yes. But that deck actually wasn't building servers. It was just like, you know, doing its other horrible thing. I honestly don't know if we play Subliminal. Like it pads HQ, and generally if you ice up archives, like that's the thing with Alice is Alice's built-in pressure on central servers, especially HQ. Yeah, I don't think we play Subliminal. We can always throw it out. I don't think we really need the credit on this hand. And here we can get stuff on the table. If they steal a Regenesis, it's like whatever. I think something like this is actually reasonable. As much as we don't have kill in hand. The other option is to get like the Moonpool on the table and the Reaper on the table. But yeah, I don't think we need to play the Subliminal. And merely here, like maybe Alice doesn't run. I'm not actually sure. I haven't seen an Alice deck in a long, long time. I'm hoping that they play Glut. What is it? Glut Cipher? That'd be fun. Raindrops. Let's go. All right. We'll res the Tithe. What does this do? Draw more cards? Technically, maybe we shouldn't have fired it. Hitting MK Ultra, I'm regretting what we've done. So we discard a card, it'll be a Subliminal. Whatever. And they ended up drawing from the raindrops. Yeah, we probably should have res there. Man. Okay. Probably should have read the text on that. I thought they'd get more credits. I think either way it would have been pretty bad. I think we just let them raindrops archives for no value. Yo, Cody, how's it going? Yeah, I regret that. That's fine. Tag me, Alice. Okay. Interesting. We now have to ice up HQ because of Hot Pursuit, but we're assuming that they're going to be on Obelisk, which means huge hand size. That's also an issue for us. So we have to actually build lock sooner than later, as much as we can. Moshing last click. Let's see what they throw out. Again, we're tracking 3 steals against scarring and 50 cards. The Ghost Tongue, counter surveillance, moshing. It's a bit hard to play counter surveillance. Probably avoiding the Ghost Tongue. Again, I'm assuming core damage. I'm assuming sabotage, but it might just be a good enough card. Reaper for 2. I don't think we need to. Okay, we have Hokusai. Hokusai on archives is just good enough. It makes it pretty bad here. We want to draw 1 and put things on the table. Yeah, I think we can afford to do this. Again, we can't ice up HQ. There's a chance of putting the Hokusai on HQ is correct, because I'm assuming here we're going to get hit by... They're admittedly a bit of influence. I think 2 influence for Hot Pursuits, but it's the best tag me card here. If they don't have Citadel, though, there's a chance they don't want to go tag me just yet. Alice doesn't have Link, so it's going to be hard to clear the tags. Wonder if there's a breakout to get counters back later? Like breakout back into our archives at some point? I reckon so. This is the most sub routines we have on an ice in our deck, if I'm not mistaken. So 0 hit and MK Ultra, so they have 2 killers and 1 decoder. Oh, counter surveillance? Oh, yeah. Well, they're definitely playing 3 counter surveillance, so the first one you can easily throw out. You don't want to hold it in your hand, especially against PE. But they just took a tag. Well, we're definitely going to trash the rogue trading. They also only took 6 off of it. A lot of times if you're going to go tag me, you want to take, all the money you can off of it in a single turn. We also got back the Subliminal. We can decide whether we want to hit it or not. 2 Regenesis is ugly, but we can always save it. I don't think they're going to run archives anytime soon, so I'm going to play it. We will trash this. 16 credits is probably enough. Now we have to draw, so ordering goes pretty bad there. Do we ice up HQ? I'm going to ice up HQ against counter surveillance. So if we want to use a Moonpool, we need to get an agenda on the table. Running R&D. We have snare credits, but no snares. I don't want to res that. They can trash that. This card on its own is even scary enough with like Arctica Cypher and the sort of traps that we're not playing, because it's instant counters. Oh, it's a Warrior Tracker. We res a Warrior Tracker. We can pay 2 here. They generally end up paying 4 plus 4 plus probably trashing this. So that's a huge amount of credits. Again, this is basically like 8 credits for 2 for us. So it's generally a good exchange. They access the Warrior Tracker first. I think you always want to access the other card first because you know what this one is. And this is only 1 or more cards in the server. Oh wait, does it fire on each one? I'm actually not sure. 1 or more cards. It's whenever. Okay, so you do want to trash this first. Excuse me. All right, we have a Diviner. We can get the Genesis in a remote server, but it doesn't really do much on this board state. Icing up R&D seems okay. They don't really have an economy engine. No fermenters, no liberateds. It's hard to play those when you're tag me. Drawing once is like, I don't know what we're doing. I think we can just ice R&D and click for credit. I know, let's get a table. Yeah, that's good. That's actually really good. We'll get a fire all modes. That's cute. Let's leave R&D open. Here we have like no threat. Like we have no table. Admittedly, they kind of slow us down, so we have to, do this on archives, but it's not that different. All right. Funny enough, we can throw out an agenda to do damage, let alone turn on the Genesis. Breaking this for 2+3. Yeah, look, how's it going? Evening. This means they can still trash the Hokusai. We will res it. I don't think our money's that important. We can still res this. What are we trashing out? Let's throw out a Warrior. That's fine. Hit a Laborites. That's good recursion. Again, just cards out of hand matter. And the Hokusai is still probably worth trashing. They did. So they're on 5 credits after the laundry. So can they afford to run 3 credits to force us to trash a card? I don't think they can keep up with the economy, but only if, oh, there you go, the Hot Pursuit. With on 1 credit, that's nice. Not that we would have stopped them, but that's exactly the best economy card they have. We have very few end the run, so like, we can't really keep them out. They can always take damage. They're only on 1 card though. All right, only asset, let's go. Draw, gain credit. Advancement on a piece of ice? You spoil us. Okay, cool. All right, so we have enough money that's lethal potentially. We haven't seen a steel skin yet. The problem is obviously we don't have enough money. And if they run archives, what do we throw out? An ice? I think at some point we could consider an ice diviner on archives. Problem is with 12 credits, they can check some of this, but like, we just have to keep them honest. We haven't seen any recursion, so this just slows them down a wee bit. They'd have to mess up, I think, to somehow get flatlined here. That being said, like, we have Anemone. They might not expect it. But unfortunately, if we res the Anemone, we're off Reaper function. This is like a really slow start. Ideally, we would want to put already like 4 asses on the table. Deuces, just for cards and credit. The base mode, they don't want to clear the tags. And counter surveillance, we'll see 2 cards. We always have to play around that to some extent. It's just kind of really hard. They don't know that we're not on snare yet. But like running R&D with a counter surveillance dig and then stealing an Obokata. What is that, ice? Who knows? It's worth noting for Wall to Wall doesn't care that it's an advanceable ice. So they might think that this is advanceable, but it could actually be anything. What are we playing? This is Doomrat's deck list of the week as of last week, which we didn't get to play. And so it's like a PE asset deck, running things like Moonpool and then like Warrior Tracker, and then just trying to build that sort of like Bladderwort lock. Dirty Laundry R&D running once a turn. That's their second laundry. Nothing on top of the deck. Oh, they trashed a Keeling, excuse me. So Reaper function drops 2 from hand. We don't need to do that, especially because it keeps our wall-to-wall charged. Draw a card, gain a credit, advancement. Mouseless is actually the card that for a minute showed up in these sort of kind of prison decks. Not that we're exactly a prison deck. If we res this, it actually turns off our wall-to-wall. I don't think we need to, but it's something they can consider checking, which is nice. I think we will ice R&D. Technically, all our agendas are in there. That's a new remote. I don't care about that. Reaper function is worth icing up. We will put this on R&D, and I think we just click for a credit here. I think next turn we can do these 2 together. But I'm actually not sure if we res the Nasex, right? Like it's credit negative for a couple turns. They'll probably end up trashing it, but it turns off wall-to-wall. I don't know. Card and credit is both really good here. Technically, if we res this, like we get both of them, but I don't know. It's credit negative the turn we install it. Or sorry, fire it. For the next couple turns at least. They bring down our wall-to-wall, yeah. And that's like the cool thing about the bin breakers. Like Warrior Tracker is definitely annoying, but like whatever, you can bring that back. Wall-to-wall to hand, double tracker Reaper. Wall-to-wall to hand, double tracker Reaper. Oh, you could, but for what it's worth, double tracker doesn't like, it only matters double tracker if they have like 4 installed cards, right? But yeah, we can always return this to hand if we really need to. But at that point, then we're reinstalling and resing it. Excuse me. I don't know. Yeah, this would be good if they like installed Liberated or Endurance or something. No, no worries. Yeah, so this card was like a pretty unplayable card. And then the first time I think I ever saw it was in the potato decks a long time ago. And it was a reason, like it was the thing to play around Stargate, or I don't think Keyhole was legal at the time. It was like Stargate, right? For what it's worth, the deck back in the day, the real prison ones, not the asset ones, they were really weak to Turning Wheel because people would bounce off the Obokata. There's actually like a very narrow window where people were unironically playing Georgia Emeliov because it stopped people from just bouncing off and charging Turning Wheel. But Warrior Tracker showed up as like another protection piece. It's pretty good for doing influence. It also protects all your traps like snares and stuff like that from centrals, but it's not bad. But it also was good against program destruction too. Like if they ever tried to, I don't know what people were doing back in the day, like hippoing, I guess. It fires on that as well. It's not only in the server. It's also protecting the server, which is kind of cool. But yeah, people played it. It's nice. It's hard to deal with. Upgrades inherently just add more confusion than anything else. That being said, also like Prysac could be probably playable in this deck as much as we don't care about tags. I think Prysac is underplayed. Admittedly, everyone's on No Free Lunch, but like that card does a lot. And it's like still they have to trash it for 3. And you're paying 2, which is like, what do you expect for Hokusai? Admittedly, Hokusai is 4 to trash. I don't know. I am kind of a Prysac fan. The thing is like Hokusai you res 2 once, but yeah, a lot of NFL around. Yeah, totally. But like, I don't know. Technically Hokusai does net damage, which is easier to prevent than meat damage. It's not like people are going to Citadel away on what's it called, the Hokusai. The one extra credit trash cost matters. But like, we don't care about tags. Thinking of Waroid, Anvil, Nani, Waroid seems like a board state war of attrition. Anvil, Nani, Waroid. Yeah, I guess so. For what it's worth, like if you ever trash a card, I have to go, GG. Oh, it's okay. All right, they're out. That's a bummer. Undefeated on JNet casual. We'll do another one. That happens. I get it. I've been there. Is net really easier to prevent right now? No. There's more meat damage prevention. The problem is like the meat damage prevention is like Citadel Sanctuary. It's like the nuclear option. You'll never do it. I do think some people are playing Caldera. Like I think you saw Caldera show up in some of the what's it called? The World Tree Woo decks as like, you know, a slot. Some people were playing Caldera recently. I think it also like was kind of hotter when people were playing Thule if you just didn't like respecting Thule. But there's a lot more cards that can do infinite net damage protection than there are cards that can do infinite meat damage protection. In fact, there are some of one and none of the other. But again, I don't think that's a big reason why you should make your difference. The tag for what is relevant. Like people do play resources. You can trash them. They have to clear the tag. So that's good. It is more kill meat and net is more bleed. Yeah, no, for sure. And this deck kind of like does a bit of both. Like it definitely tries to wear you down, but then it will definitely go for the jugular on that last turn. But admittedly, you probably have been bleeding for a couple turns. I think that's a big thing between grind decks, right? Like people don't mind kill decks, meat damage decks. Some people don't like them, but like at least it feels like it was a play as opposed to like a grind. I don't know. There's only 8 games tonight. It's actually like half startup, half standard. I was actually getting a bit anxious. I realized I've only been playing startup really for a long time now to like realize what the standard meta looks like. And I think right now competitively, I feel like the competitive season or competitive players are probably waiting for an update. I don't know if Null Signal has a date. Has Null Signal announced a date when they say the next standard ban list change will be? And I'm not saying we need a standard ban list change. I think people will just be excited. It's like a fresh meta, right? Flopus. Too little data. I wonder if that's a smurf or not. Padma. Okay, cool. All right, I reckon we're going to see the good stuff. I'd be happy to see something happen to Wu Tree. Yeah, I haven't been playing standard, so I don't know how popular Wu Tree is, but it seems like the sort of deck that's fun to play in JNet casual. All right, we got Waroid, Nasex, Rashida, Spin Doctor. This is good enough. It's not Prison. We definitely want to ice up R&D sooner than later. Maybe a Spin Doctor will get us there. Still knee deep and trying to sort out async issues in Peddler Draft where I'll be up playing too. How's that going? Regenesis. Get on an SS boat. We are going to get boated. How hard we get boated is the question. Let's start with some assets. The Bladderwort. Oh, that's like okay, I guess. We have a Regenis. I wonder if they'll do Spin Doctor turn 1. Because if we keep like this is where playing Subliminal can be bad because we want to actually discard cards here. But we could do like Rashida, Nasex, and then just put this. Oh, we don't have enough clicks. I think we do Rashida, Nasex. I don't think we hit the Subliminal here. I think making it a 50 versus a 40 on our hand is like probably worth pursuing. Maybe that's perverse. I'm loving the Peddler Draft. I finally got a really good working formula for power sorting of cards too. It can debug the issue. I'm going to push out a fork branch of it soon. Cool. I watched a bunch of your VOD when you did the Peddler Draft stream / games. No comment. Definitely no comment. For what it's worth, like Waroid turn 1 is actually really bad because it doesn't do anything. So they can just go trash this. The risk is Hokusai, right? It's the 50-50. I think there was a turn, Sax, that you like rezzed, what's it called? A Sansan just to save a click. It wasn't fast advance. And it was like, so, I've never seen that line before. I think your economy like totally struggled after it, but it caught me pretty good. Hey, Andre, loving the stream. Even better watching it in Bali with a beer. Hey, please stream all day. Enjoy your beer in Bali. You on holiday? You're traveling? You're working? I'm not honestly sure where Bali is, but I've been getting good at geography. I've been studying. I've been trying to do the map to name all the countries, and I can get like 90% there. And then it turns out there's a lot of island countries that I don't know what they are, unfortunately, because I've never studied Pacific Island countries, and there's a lot of them. It definitely sounds like my kind of this is crazy, but yeah, I don't think it was like you click for credit. It was really funny. Matryoshka. Okay, so we're playing something cool here. Nassix and HQ. That's a pretty good hit here with only 2 credits. This is wild, but buckle up. With only 2 credits here, right? Like keeping your credits up is obviously the most important thing. Matryoshka is inherently a bit weak to damage. Not that they're going to need that many Matryoshkas against our list, but like I understand why you want to get this down. It's just really hard to get this down. And then also trash things. Now, if the Rashida fires off, top of the deck here, like snare is really bad. Not that we're playing it, but running last click into Jinteki can be a liability. They steal Obokata, they lose, but it's their choice to do that. Steven, how's it going? Finally able to catch a bit of stream. How's it going? It's going really well. How are you doing? Hopefully you're staying warm. It's been a minute. Are you coming in on Mondays? I feel like I haven't seen you in a minute. I don't come in on Mondays, so that's kind of on me. They say oof on the top. Maybe a Keeling, maybe a Bladderweight. I don't think there's a lot of 2-cost trashables in the deck besides spin, so probably can't trash it. All right, that's us. We'll fire Rashida. Oh, just Obokatas. Just like a lot of Obokatas. That's actually really sick. Because if they don't respect the potential, like this thing behind ice with, we have a moon pool? No, we just throw that out and hopefully they don't run it. So I think here we don't really have anything we want to get on the table. We can get Nassix. We can do triple install. So we'll do... I'd rather Ice Archives than Spin Doctor, honestly, because even if they flip, the agendas are in a bad spot. But here, I think we definitely need to score out this while we can get the Obokatas face down. So we'll do this in a new remote server. I don't think we need to do on top of the Waroid. We'll put... I think this is good enough. No, this is actually really nice. This works well with Regenesis, but then they probably don't jack out. And then we want to get some stuff in archives. I'll just put this in a new remote server. Then we can throw out Obokata. Yeah. It's been busy, but I'll be there next week. Okay, cool. I think I will be. Maybe busy is good though. It's a small island in Indonesia, very chill. Oh, I do know where that one is on the map. Excuse me. Glad to hear you're having a good time. It's a Friday afternoon, huh? So if they don't run this, we get the 3/4, the you know, that mythical 3/4 Regenesis. It also does a single net damage, which like can't feel bad about that. We could have played Subliminal there, but then we wouldn't have been able to discard the Obokata. So you see, there's 2 turns in a row we weren't playing Subliminal. Was the first one correct? Oh, it's hard to tell. Was the second one correct? Yeah. Are we going to play Subliminal and then not be able to Regenesis? There's a chance. That Stone Ship is actually really, really good because that prevents them from dying. That's a sting. We didn't get the Nassix on the table. Should we Subliminal for value first before we score the Genesis? Because the thing is that once we score this out, we have no clicks left. So we have to do this for like our first click or second click, right? Because as soon as we advance this, we have no clicks. Yeah, we should Subliminal first before we score the Genesis. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. We learned. Hit a test run. Interesting. Let's throw out. I think an Obokata is like actually pretty good to put on the table. I like the rest of our hand though. If anything, I'm throwing out a Subliminal. It'll come back. Yeah, we probably should have just like Subliminal on click 1. There's so much text to this and like no one's ever read all of it. I know I haven't. I usually get halfway and I think like, oh yeah, I understand how this works. And then I biotic it out. All right, so we're on 4 points, which means install advance as soon as next turn they have to interact. That means they have to get through an enemy, which is 2 damage, and this is 5 damage. So like literally we could win on turn 4. It's a bit harder for them because of the Stone Ship, like they could draw in. Oh, rigging up endurance. I think that's fine. Almost threw something at the screen. Subliminal bait. Baiting for what's it called? For engagement is the best kind of engagement because everyone's really angry. I think I heard something about how reading cards explains them. Whatever. No. Like this says just enough text. This one, it's a Doomtown card. You can't read this. It's like Yu-Gi-Oh. So endurance is down, but they're on 0 credits, and right? Like endurance allows them to break ice, but again, the beauty of Anemone is that we don't care. This just turns off. Like I think they're doing this to force the Spin Doctor, but it does turn off the Subliminal. They might be confused why the Subliminal is in there, but we got there. And now with only 2 cards in hand, admittedly it could be 4 cards. Like we can just do install advance Obokata next turn. If they steal it, like we sting. If they steal a sting here, they also die. In fact, there's like no agenda that if they steal it. If there's any agenda on top of the deck, barring the Obokata, they lose the game here. Oh no, because Stone Chip. They could respect it. Never mind. All right. In theory, we could do install advance, but like it doesn't actually help us that much. It kind of does. If they can steal this, admittedly, if we res an enemy, we're gonna have credit issues. But I think we're fine with that. It's really hard for them to steal. Admittedly, if we res an enemy, they can't do anything. And that being said, they have to run this and still have 5 cards in hand. So imagine they're on 4 cards in hand. So they have to do like credit, run this, and then card draw, pop this, run this, draw. And then they'll be on 2 cards in hand, and we'll be on 0 credits. So it's not even the best. But if they don't run this, they lose. All right, they're running it. So here we can think. So if we pop this, they go down to a few cards in hand. If they access with the Stone Chip, they die anyway. So I don't think we have to do anything. Is it pronounced Metropole or Metropole? Actually kind of neither. It's like Métropole. Métropole is French. I'm not French. I don't have a French accent. They cannot pop the Stone Chip after accessing this. Like there's no paid ability window during access unless it's one of those interrupts like Imp. So yeah, that's it. We're all Metropoles here. The one thing I regret about the Metropole Grid is that I don't have a logo. And so I can't, like, I wish I had a better logo so we could do merch or stuff, but it's just the name and the font, which I feel like it's a bit of a shortcoming. It's Metro Beans. And that is it. Like, hey, turn 5. And I've played games like this. Obviously, like the Regenesis Obokata is something you can respect if you see it coming by like running Archive specifically. Thanks to the game. They were on World Tree too. A wild list, whatever this is. But like there are a lot of instances where you play like tempo-based PE. I think tempo-based PE is like kind of underrated on the basis that like it's actually really hard to get Obokata, cards in hand, and an enemy, right? Like if you run once and get an anemone and you're down to like 2 cards in hand, say you're not playing Anarch or whatever, it's like kind of really difficult to run the remote server next turn and then still like not die to stuff. Like I do think tempo-based PE is a bit underrated. I want a Metropole Grid Beans coffee mug. Please make it happen. I think the words Beans would look so bad in like the Cyberpunk Metropole Grid kind of font that I haven't looked at it yet. I would buy Metropole Grid mugs. You need a rebranding team. I've actually spent good time trying to make like an M that I like, but M as a letter is a bit difficult. I don't know. Is there anywhere to read about the technical side of paid ability windows or access mechanics like that? Should you just play on JNet to learn through doing? I would not play on JNet to learn through doing. If you're worried that you're a newer player, I would just label like newer player and then people can walk you through stuff. I think if you want to ask questions, going onto the Green Level Clearance Discord and just asking the rules questions is the easier thing. I'm going to make a video about timing structure. That's something that I've already written half a script on like last year and never got to, but I want to do it. But if you really want to look into it, the rules documents that Null Signal has on their website is the best thing to do. It's a bit terse because it is like, you know, rules complete technical document, but it's not as overwhelming as you think. There's a logic bomb site for serious rule issues now. Yeah, there's the rules issue blog. I don't know. Did it actually have like rules explanation on it? I thought it was just like a place to talk about rules. Also run the ! timing command in the GLC bot. Debogs, after this game, if it goes fast, we can do a rules run through. Or where we can open the timing document and I can talk about paid ability windows. Because paid ability windows in the game are technically pretty straightforward. You just need to know when the paid abilities are. And then technically certain paid ability windows allow for certain paid abilities and not other paid abilities. I'm making it sound really intimidating. The other thing that's important to know if you're newer to this game is that Netrunner doesn't have a stack. Paid abilities happen at the order that they happen. There's no like, I'm going to respond to this. This will happen before. Exactly. And how that works is that people have priority. If it's your turn and you come to a paid ability window, as the player with priority, you can do as many of your paid abilities in a row without obstruction in your choosing of ordering. Then once you're done doing none or any paid abilities, then you give your opponent the opportunity to do any paid abilities. And then technically once they're done all of theirs and their choice of order without any of your interruptions, then you're through the window. In theory, you can do a paid ability. Your opponent can do a paid ability. Once they're done, it does go back to you and you can trade back and forward. But again, there's no interruptions. It's not like, hold on, my trap card. It's like, I'm going to do this and this and this and this. Now, do you want to do anything? And that's actually really, really important for the game because there's a lot of things that can happen in a single paid ability. Like, I'm going to play this card that puts 2 advancements on a card. I'm going to res this, score out an agenda, and then ask your opponent, do you want to do something now? And at that point, it's too late because the agenda is scored. So if you're ever trying to stop fast advance, you need to give the opponent a paid ability before you actually get the final advancement on the card, for instance. I think that makes sense, but just knowing the window is the tricky part. Yeah, there's only like 4 or 5 windows. Running is the most nuanced part because there's different parts in a run where there's different paid ability windows and res windows and stuff like that. But there's almost the most important thing is there's a paid ability window before and after every single click. So before and after anybody does anything with a click based, you have to technically ask for permission. Nobody does that because 9 out of 10 times, or actually like 99 out of 100 times, it doesn't matter. And then at the start of turn, at the end of turn, where logically you think there would be, there are. Do people rush through actions in live games and cause opponents to miss paid windows frequently? At top tables, no. And that's because the paid ability windows that people are expecting are generally respected, right? Like if you're expecting someone to do something like present this clot or this, breaker with something like that, it gets respected. People are not inherently going out of their way to like force people to miss time. I've never really seen that. No, not at all. And now the rules are really actually forgiving, where if you miss a paid ability window, you can go back as long as rewinding it doesn't open anything else. This is really interesting because getting face down cards in archives is a huge benefit to us. Where it gets really weird are cards that don't exist anymore. Cards like Street Peddler, cards like Gachapon can be ugly, but the cards that they work with are actually not inherently that problematic. And then cards like Councilman were kind of the worst case, where they actually produced instances where there were relevant paid abilities people wouldn't expect. Street Peddler into the Councilman was the worst one, but that honestly didn't come up. Okay, opening hand. Essa is going to take some amount of core damage, but then probably get some better hand size, so it's going to be hard to do a burst kill. This opening hand has Bladderwort and Rashida. The really cool thing is Essa, if ever Essa does core damage, and we can throw out an Obokata out of willingness, like maybe on third or heaven forbid last click, we can just Regenesis it. I'm going to mulligan though for better hand. Spin Doctors are at a premium in this matchup because there's going to be a lot of cards we're going to discard randomly. Okay, well, now we can be a bit not precious with these. I'm actually going to like tithe the Spin Doctor because protecting the Spin Doctor means like you really don't want to take any core damage. Okay, maybe we won't. But yeah, you generally don't want to take core damage. This hand is really bad. Oh God, this hand is awful. What did we do here? Their first opening hand we have is way better than this in immediate hindsight. So we can get this on the table, discard 2. Like, yeah, fine. Losing a Spin Doctor on turn 1 against Essa seems like a nightmare, but they generally need to run this or this before they do anything. So they're going to run archives here. That makes sense. They could end up taking 2 net damage here. I don't think we want to give them 4 points on turn 1. So yeah, that's bad. And now the core damage will start. At least we have another spin in hand. Fermenter, there's a Maro. Maro actually does hurt us. It is relevant. So we can just trash 2 cards here. We don't have Regenesis in the hand. We have a Nastix on the table. We can throw out, I honestly don't know. Hokusai and 1 random, I guess. Rashida? Okay. And 4 cards hand size. We have to remember the text on this. This actually, move my face. It's actually relatively painful because we're not always going to score a lot of little agendas, but who knows? And we'll see if S's economy and standards is worth something. Okay. So we want to ice some stuff up. I don't want to open up with the Spin Doctor. That's good. That can build mistakes. This is worth trashing. And with 4 cards in hand and this in hand, like we can get lethal relatively quickly. The question is what we do. I do think just committing the small piece of ice for archives is like good enough where Essa might not want to check. But we'll see if the hand size goes up. Actually, hand size is 7, not 4. What am I talking about? Hand size is 7. So no, we're potentially far away. We could have considered Hokusaiing this. I think they have to trash this. Yeah, that makes sense. And again, it's harder to recur our, like, our damage pieces when there's other. Why are you back already? I thought we got rid of you. You want to make a 7-2 agenda? Sounds sick. All right, that's a bit outsider art. We're gonna see what we can do with this. Obviously a protected server, but if they run this, honestly, like Warrior Tracker threatening a Marrow is really rude. Like really rude. That's kind of cool. Admittedly, we're giving ourselves core damage or sabotage if they reinstall it, but whatever. That's kind of cool. So we just want to get something in here like a Bladderwort. That'd be nice. The most protected. Mystic's down. Again, we're going to see Ghost Tongue. 7 cards in hand. We have to start forcing him to do something. Otherwise, they can keep 7 cards in hand. I don't want to spin Doctor here. I feel like we have to, though. Let's draw up for something. All ice, all agendas. That's not great. I think we can just double ice. We'll ice up HQ. We'll get a diviner there, and then we'll just ice up this server that we want to do something cool with. Admittedly, like Anemone is actually really good. Gets cards out of hand, which can be difficult. Sometimes it's nice to have the Anemone not on this server, as long as we have like Regenesis on the table. Warrior Tracker named on the day HB Subtlety Department is on vacation. It's about sending a message. I don't actually know where the name comes from. Zenith here. Okay, that's cool. So that's a free card draw, which is really good. That's another core damage. It's another card that Warroid does well. I'm just going to rip 2. We lost Keeling and Diviner. Keeling is kind of fun. Keeling is actually really fun. I don't know if Pinhole Threading is going to be here. It's kind of hard. Onuka, that's more influence and more burst card draw. We don't love that. Unfortunately, nothing in the remote server just yet. We have Regenesis, and this is where, like, in theory, we could throw out a Blood in the Water, but like this is one of the best cards we have because it interacts really favorably into this. Mind you, we could be playing Nana Civic as well, in theory. Oh, okay. So, like, we just do this, and if we ever take core damage, we just throw this out and then Regenesis. Like, we're hoping that they do core damage. We're just wishing they do core damage. Breaker check, just the code gates. This is not a code gate. This is not. Oh, this is, but like it's a thing they break for 3. We res for 2. Fermenter. Oh, they have 14 credits. Here we go. Oh. Yeah, we might as well. A lot of really bad hits here. Everything is a really bad hit besides the Anemone. This also gets a card draw. Obokata. Obviously, they don't have to steal that. Ooh, down to 1 card. Roll it good, lost a Mad Dash, but that's the card that we wanted to set up. Still, if they sabotage, we can get the Blood in the Water in there. This is actually a card that's not worth playing, or it's worth not playing because it allows us to sabotage this over and over again if they're not running. Admittedly, that means they will be running. Okay, I don't like this server that we put that there. They actually stole that. Yeah, I don't know. I think stealing an early Obokata before we have a kill state on the table, it makes sense. Like, it's really hard to win a game without stealing an Obokata, and I think that was a relatively safe time to do it. It's only going to get harder if they take more core damage. So, like, I respect that. I think that actually was correct. I respect that. Doesn't sound like a nice term. If you, yeah, but you know what I mean. Like, I think I like that. This is just going to go down. We really need to protect this, but not that like they need to take that down. Admittedly, like we're on 8 credits. It was really hard for us to duck that. We'd have to show all of these, but we just need them to sabotage at a bad spot. Oh, it's a Chistushka. Sick. This is actually really cool for us because we can do this, and 2 randoms. And I don't think they can run Archives last click. Did we get an Obokata? No. Time Bomb. Okay, cool. Cool. Oh, we just drew that one turn sooner. We're gonna have to Marrow. Wait. Oh, okay, so this is a really important thing for timing. When we score this agenda, Marrow fires, but we have to do our win scored abilities before giving them priority. So we can't let Marrow fire first to trash the Obokata to add the Obokata. That would be sick. So let's do the PE first, I guess. We got a Pinhole, whatever. A face down card in Archives. All right. Choose up a 1 card to trash from HQ. No. Yeah, that's fine. All right, so we're on 3 points. And we can consider advancing the Obokata on top of the Hokusai and the Tithe. Admittedly, we can get the Anemone on top of that too. I do think they should take down the Nasex. And the Time Bomb's going to fire. We have a Spin Doctor for that. The need to draw 8 cards in hand. We have a lot of cards in hand. Oh, they fired Nuka, right? 8 cards. This fires not next turn, the turn after. Running Archives here. I think the Tithe is like maybe not worth rezzing. It's free. They know what it is though. We have no face downs in there. Well, yeah, we'll fire it. It takes a card out of their hand. They're going to discard anyways, so it's not the best. Like, showing them what this is kind of worse. They might have to play around an Anemone or a Pathonimus. But this fires. I don't think, yeah, they don't have an MK Ultra. Oh, they do. They did. They didn't want to break it. Okay, so that was right. They lost a Mara, whatever. 8 cards, nothing in there. Subliminal is in there, though. And we can always get the Spin Doctor in here. They're on 6 cards in hand. And again, the economy hasn't been great. We haven't seen Liberated. We haven't seen Ghost Tongue yet. We're assuming they're on, like, you know, more bravados, more event economy, which is harder to play. Moshing, Black Orchestra, Paperclip. So they have all their breakers. We actually have no barriers in the deck. All right, that's another card that we keep. We're going to get the Spin Doctor down next turn, hopefully. I do think we can do Install Advance Advance. They'd have to run this. The problem is we have no follow-up kill. So the other option is to get the Spin Doctor in there, which I think we can wait a turn to do that. You can consider like Anemone on R&D. I want to get the other Regenesis. How many do we have? I think we only have 2 in the list. Yeah, we only have 2. Man, if they didn't steal the Obokata, I guess we'd be on 4 points. That's a fair bit better. Stings are all alive and well. Rashida into Server 4 is good enough, and we'll just click for credit. So the Rashida fires. Next turn, we can install a lot of things, including the Spin Doctor, and that will pad us well for the Time Bomb. So bin breakers are something they can feed to the Warrior for sure. We'll res the Tithe. Again, this is just about trading credits. And now they're only going to have 4 credits. So they basically can choose one thing to trash here before it rips up their board. So we'll res both of these. Again, our money is not great, but it almost never is. They lost a Running Hot to the Hokusai. Glad to see that. But at some point, they're going to limit how much core damage. I don't think they're going to just fire every core damage card they have for obvious flatline reasons. But the thing is, as soon as they trace into this or trash one of these, they can't even trash the Rashida. Like 4 credits is exactly our. So it's a Rashida. If they want to trash a Rashida, they're going to have to do trace 4, which we can boost once to make trace 5. They'd install trash 2 cards, which like at least they have 2 breakers here. They definitely also need to use their, well, they don't need to use the Mystic this turn, but like they're gonna have to use the Mystic sooner than later. And I think we're gonna Chestushka at the same turn they Time Bomb us. Do we boost 1 here? No, because they have only 3 credits. So install 2 face down cards, or sorry, trash 2 installed cards is their choice. Very frightening looking Biroids. Oh, the sand, yes, it's red. There's footprints near it. Let's touch the sand. For some reason. And then these live, which is nice. Off the damage, what do we get? We got, oh yeah, the Running Hot. Cool. Drop. Credit's not good. For a Mentor, it's going to help. So this is going to fire next turn. We didn't get the Rashida. We got another Rashida. So Time Bomb is going to fire this turn, which means we really want to get the Spin Doctor on the table. I think we're just going to get this here. We're going to get this into a new remote server. And I think we're going to click for credit. We can also consider icing this up. Our money's not great. But I think they're going to try and Chestushka. I think we can just rip 3. Nah, Subliminal and rip 2. Lost a Reaper and a Moonpool. All the assets we want on the table. Luckily, the Spin Doctor isn't like forcing us to recur agendas. We can actually recur like, you know, Keeling. Oh, Finality. That's actually really dangerous. Well, it's not the worst because we're not on Snare. They also draw up when they play it. Here we can just rip 2. I don't think we can keep the agendas in hand. So we lost a Sting and a Reaper. But here if they steal like 2 Stings, they're in an ugly spot. There's 1 more Blood in the Water in the deck, but I don't think we have to shuffle in here. Zenith draws 2, so they're accessing with 6 cards. That's pretty safe, even around Snare, which we could only in theory fire 1. We don't have snares. Ooh, full whiff. No trashes either, but 2 credits, there's not a lot they can. So now we know they're not drawing agendas in a while. We want to try and delay the Spin Doctor. Immediately the Rashida draws us faster through lock. In fact, we break lock if we draw ones. All right, it's about keeping their economy up. Problem, we can't get a Bladderware on the table. We know they're on Pinhole as well. Oh, 3 Pinholes they're at, so okay, that's fine. They're checking archives. I like this because this is just going to fire. And there's actually a Sting in there, which we're totally happy with them stealing. Admittedly, puts them on game point, so that's a bit risky. Hit a Time Bomb. I feel like they might have installed that this turn. We could Spin Doctor here. I don't think we want to. They can take a Sting. That's going to hit them MK Ultra, so they're on 3 cards in hand. And they're up to 5. Okay, we'll fire the Rashida here. We could shuffle back in. Getting the Reaper functional on the table is really important. We still have 2 Bladderworts. I'm assuming Chestushka is going to happen sooner than later, so I think we can keep this. What events did they play? Oh, Finality. Okay, that's how they use their Mystic. All right, let's go. Okay, Moonpool's really important, potentially. I think we want to get some ice on R&D because the top of R&D is now unknown. We can just get stuff on the table because they can't afford to trash this. A second ice on HQ is good too, but like they don't really have the credits to run HQ, and we're safe against a Chastushka. Here another finality would be rough, but I think they might have to respect ice on R&D. They do know that we drew into a diviner. It actually might have been right not to put the diviner, but to put the anemone there. It actually protects the Obokatas better in R&D. I think that's correct. All right, so influence count 1, 2, 3 on the pinholes, 4, 5, 6, 7 on the Nukas. Zenith is 8, 9, 10. They're checking a wall to wall. That's fine. I don't think that's a priority trash. And you see how much money we got at this NASX. Like if they could trash it, admittedly, it's sometimes hard to keep your credits up, but that one's important. Trash to paperclip. Okay, 5 hand size. So what do we res here? That. I think we draw with it. Okay, final spin doctor. That's always nice. We need to protect things. This is where we need to find a Regenesis. I don't think we're going to rush to do it. Bladderworts would be really good. Unfortunately, all the Reapers are out and they know that. So I do think we might be a bit more aggressive with this. They only have 8 cards left, right? Like we just need to grind them out. We just need to do a quantity of damage. It doesn't have to be like an intelligent damage. It just has to be damage. So I think getting the Anemone up on HQ protects this Obokata. On R&D is also pretty good. We'll draw once and then install, I think. Oh, that's sick. Will they call us on this? I don't know. Res spin, I was considering it. I kind of like to keep them secret. So where we put this is super important. I think we can just do this in server 4. Like, I don't know what they were worried about this being. I think either way, this is okay for us. If they steal this, it doesn't really change how much they have to win. But if this survives or this survives, we win. Right? Like if either Regenesis or Moonpool survives, we win the game. Or even if they sabotage us late in the turn, like we could always discard the Obokata. And then like, if they even run it, we spin doctor back. So I don't want to show they have a spin doctor because if they Chastushka us, A+. And I want them to like take core damage while they don't know there's a spin doctor. That's a Moonpool. They have to trash that. That's a shame. Definitely love that card. They trashed. Okay. All right. So now, that's interesting. I think we let them trash it. No, I think I don't know, thinking. We can res this to get the, yeah, let's res this just to get damage in. But if they trash it, I don't think we're upset. Now that's not on the table, they might do sabotage. And I want them to do sabotage. Because if we can throw the Obokata out, like, oh, okay, they didn't last click sabotage. That obviously makes sense. We'll just get a credit. We have enough cards. So we just have to put stuff on the table. Same thing. If they sabotage us, we have some outs here. This, we can do a fair bit of damage. Bladderwort, we can't really duck. But we have some damage here. And again, if they sabotage us at any point too late in the turn, and we could have put Spin Doctor to the table to be really safe. But if they ever sabotage us, we can throw out the Obo. If they sabotage us like 3rd click or 4th click. And again, if you're sabotaging, you don't want to do that late in the turn. 4th click sabotage is like the worst thing you can do. But it looks like they're going to run this turn. Fermenter into Nuka. I think they might just try and close the game. Sure gamble. 1 click more. Maybe a running hot. Wait, what happened? Why? Why are we getting sabotaged? Oh, finality. Okay. Okay, let's hope. I really wish we had the Anemone here. Maybe we can duck with Nassix. It'd be unlikely. This they want to break. They're going to see 4 cards here. They can win. Like just one Obokata does it. So we have to get lucky that the last Obokata is not in the top 4 cards. They draw a card too. Uh oh, blood. Ah, they got it too. Good game. So if that whiffed, they'd have to run Archives last click, and they don't only have to steal, they have to flip. But if they flip, then we can score out this Regenesis and get to 7 points. So they didn't sabotage last click. Sabotaging second last click is probably okay. I think it's very likely that they win off of this. They're running out of cards. But yeah, this is where we just need to get a couple more Reapers to fire just to like loosen them up. I do think getting the Anemone here on R&D, I don't know. Like maybe they still run it, but we have to get cards out of hand. But yeah, they're sabotage. Thanks for the game. What was on the table? That's a Sting in 10 and a Regenesis in 4 with the Obo in Archives from the sabotage. Yeah, so they weren't hitting every sabotage card, which I think is smart. Like I think you have to do that. But yeah, that is the one thing where we can use their like ability to our advantage, which is like get stuff face down in archives. And immediately if they respect it, they run archives and just flip it. They don't have to steal it then and there. Maybe just giving them a sting was a problem. Was that kill from 4? Regenesis. So that'd be game next turn. Yeah. Yeah, so it's hard. Those are the ones we're looking at the replay and understanding what to trash and when to do and what to protect what to some extent is like really apparent and really interesting, the pressure from that. I don't think we had a good like on the table game, and their economy, like we didn't force them to trash that many things. Sting Bladder Reaper's game 2-8. So this, I don't think, I can't fire Bladder this turn. I don't think. So this Sting here would do 3 damage. This would be 4-5. This maybe does 6. So maybe, yeah, it's close. That being said, too, like we can use. Oh, we don't have the moon pool either. If the moon pool survived, we'd be okay. Yeah. Well, thanks for the game. They're also just not. Oh no, they are playing Steel Skin Scarring, which is also something we have to play around. We've only seen 2 of them so far, so like even counting on the lethal when they only have 5 cards left is really hard. Because I think we've only seen 2 Steel Skin out of the very assumedly 3. Cool. And this is what you see too. Like we talked about ESSA in startup versus standard, but like you see how good these breakers are for exactly what ESSA is doing. Like the difference between having your breakers just, you can discard them whenever you want to core damage versus having to pre-install these things and then still can't break like high strength ice. It's night and day. And even, I don't know, maybe you play endurance ESSA in startup. I doubt it. Then you have to play like whatever the hippocampic is called. Cool. That's it for tonight. Went a bit later than normal. Thanks so much for hanging out, enjoying the binders. We're going to try and get a video up. I'm going to do some gameplay recording tomorrow. I'm hoping to get a video up every Monday. That's kind of what we're committing to. It'll be 3.5 hours. The next week will be 4.5 hours. And at some point, you won't have enough time in the week to watch it, which is going to be worse for editing, honestly. But that's it. Huge shout out to everyone hanging out in chat. I don't think we have any announcements coming up. I'm going to be organizing a GNK online here on this channel. I think I'm going to try and do the first one as a 1-day event and then try and get some learnings from that and do like a more of a weekly, like async or multiple weeks or something like that, just to, you know, do something. But that's it. Thanks for the stream. Looking forward to the new vids. Hey, me too. Hey, cheers, macaroni. I think that's it. We'll be back in a bit. Take care of yourselves. If you're watching the VOD, hopefully you're doing well. And of course, good games to everyone we played against tonight. Are you thinking standard or startup? That's a very good question, and I'd be interested to know what y'all think. I was thinking to do startup because I do think it seems like that's a bigger overlap with my audience right now. And I think standard, if we want to do like a competitive environment, I don't know, maybe we want to wait for ban list change. I don't know if it's that important. Again, this is meant to be more of like a casual tournament. Like the prize support is not like if you come in first, you get a new card with your likeness on it. So I'm thinking startup, but let me know what y'all think. I'm assuming that might be more popular. I don't know. Maybe we'll just do Ampere versus Nova, am I right? All right. Take care, y'all.